Chapter 30-70. Rumble. The void here was distorted crazily under the collision of the two, as if it was about to shatter. Madman was covered in injuries, and there was even a fist-sized hole in his chest, with blood gushing out uncontrollably. If it were anyone else, they would have long fallen to the ground. But he didn't. Not only did he not, the battle intent in his eyes was even stronger. Moreover, he didn't activate Blood Prison, Blood Demon Domain, Blood Demon Technique, or Heaven-defying Divine Art. He also didn't activate Blood Eye. He wanted to know where his limit was. About a few hundred breaths passed. The battle between the two became more and more intense. One moment he charged into the clouds, shaking the heavens, and the next moment he charged into the mountains outside the city, annihilating everything. Madman's willpower and fighting spirit, even Yi Yuan couldn't help but feel apprehensive. He was like an unkillable god of war. No matter how injured he was, he could always stand up again. It was as if he was using that unyielding willpower to tell him that even if he grasped this heaven-defying divine art, don't think about defeating him. In the face of such a lunatic, even a half-step sovereign realm expert would feel fear and trepidation. Rumble. Another few hundred breaths passed. Yi Yuan's body shook, and a dull explosion came from within his body. Following closely, a monstrous aura roared out. What? Qin Feiyang's expression changed. Yi Yuan's current physical body and strength had actually soared to the heaven-defying level. Go to hell. Yi Yuan laughed wildly and slapped a palm at Madman. Madman's pupils constricted, and a blood-red battle armor immediately appeared on his body. Gotcha. When Yi Yuan's strength was too terrifying, the battle armor instantly shattered, and his physical body also rapidly cracked. Following closely, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and like a blood-stained meteor, he flew all the way out, and finally smashed into the mountains outside the city. A large part of the mountains and rivers there immediately collapsed, and countless fierce beasts fled in fear. Ants, all of you are ants. Yi Yuan stood proudly in the sky, laughing as if there was no one around. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at Yi Yuan, his eyes flickering uncertainly. This divine art, just how much could it increase this person's physical body and strength? An endless increase, he was somewhat unwilling to believe it. Because it was impossible for such a divine art to exist in this world. Some people might say, isn't the kill formula the same? However, the kill symbol formula couldn't be compared to ordinary deity formulas. This was because the kill character was one of the 6-word divine arts, and the 6-word divine arts came from the god of creation. Qin Feiyang had already determined this point. This was because the handwriting of the 6-word divine formula was exactly the same as the handwriting on the pill scripture. The pill scripture came from the god of creation, so the 6-word divine formula naturally came from the god of creation as well. Who in this world could compare to the god of creation? There was definitely no one there. Yi Yuan laughed loudly for a while. Suddenly, he lowered his head to look at Qin Feiyang and said disdainfully, "You, come and receive death too." "Accept your death," Qin Feiyang murmured and smiled. "I am indeed interested in fighting with you, but you should defeat my senior brother first." Defeat? Yi Yuan laughed maniacally again. "Do you think he still has a chance of surviving? Let me give you a word of advice. Don't underestimate him." Qin Feiyang smiled. Yi Yuan couldn't stop laughing. This was really a hilarious joke. He was already dead, yet he still said not to underestimate him. There must be something wrong with this person's brain. Is he really not dead? Zhuo Tiansheng, Elder Yu, and the mayor looked at the mountain outside the city. They were originally quite sad. Xiaofan had finally found a man she liked. Now that he was killed just like that, she would definitely be very sad. They had all thought about how to comfort Zhuo Xiaofan after this was over. Because in their opinion, the madman was also bound to die. After all, Yi Yuan's previous attack was at the level of defying the natural order. With the madman's half-step invincible cultivation, no matter how strong his physical body was, there was no way he could survive. But they didn't expect Qin Feiyang to be so confident in the madman. So when they heard Qin Feiyang's words, they couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. However, whether it was worry or hope, they hid it in their hearts. After all, Third Xing was right next to them. If they revealed even the slightest trace, he might notice it. At the same time, hearing Qin Feiyang's words, the people in the city below also rose into the air and looked outside the city. Including Third Xing. He furrowed his brows. To be honest, he didn't want the madman to be alive either. But Qin Feiyang's performance was too calm. Not to mention sadness, there wasn't even the slightest bit of worry on his face. Yi Yuan also looked outside the city. Seeing that there was no movement, he looked at Qin Feiyang and shook his head. Looks like your hope is going to be dashed. I've never despaired. How can there be hope? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I haven't seen your other abilities, but your ability to put on airs has made this young master have a whole new level of respect for you. Yi Yuan laughed. As long as you're happy. Qin Feiyang smiled, looked outside the city, and murmured, Senior brother, it's time to shut him up. Boom! Qin Feiyang had just finished murmuring when a terrifying divine aura suddenly erupted from the mountains outside the city. What? He's really not dead. Yi Yuan looked up, his eyes filled with disbelief. Third Xing was the same, his eyes suddenly widened. Elder Yu, the city lord, and Zhuo Tianxing looked at each other with a trace of shock in their eyes. What kind of monster was this kid? He actually didn't die. At the same time, under that shock, there was a trace of a smile. Not bad, not bad. Xiao Xian did not misjudge, he was a kid with a limitless future. But the people of Wind Sea City did not hide the joy in their hearts. Basically, they were all beaming with joy. This scene fell into the eyes of Third Xing, and he could not help but frown. It seemed that young master's actions in Wind Sea City these years had already aroused public indignation, but because of young master's identity, they dared not speak out. In other words, now in everyone's eyes, the madman was a hero who saved Wind Sea City, and Yi Yuan was an unpardonable villain. Third Xing was a little worried. This kind of negative impact would probably be detrimental to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. In fact, he had also told Yi Yuan not to be so noisy, but would Yi Yuan listen to him? Obviously not. If Yi Yuan did not listen, there was nothing he could do. Boom! The madman's aura became more and more terrifying, and continued to approach Wind Sea City. Finally, everyone saw the madman. They saw him walking over step by step, his entire body dripping with blood, but the battle intent exuding from his body shook the world. More than 10 breaths later, the madman finally walked to the sky above the city, and stood in the air with Yi Yuan. Not dead, Yi Yuan muttered, as if it was very difficult to accept. Senior brother, can you do it? Qin Feiyang crossed his arms and teased. Hee, the madman grinned, staring at Qin Feiyang, and said, Is your hand itchy? I won't give you the chance to make a move. You. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. The madman raised his head to look at Yi Yuan, and said with a grin, Kid, are you scratching an itch for me? Yi Yuan clenched his fists, his brows filled with hostility. In fact, it was all thanks to the blood-red armor. The blood-red armor was transformed from the divine art, and helped the madman block a portion of the power. Moreover, when they came to Wind Sea City, Qin Feiyang and the madman also found Dan Wangkai and asked for some life-divine pills. In the past, Dan Wangkai was able to refine pills with 4 dragon-shaped pill qi. And now, with the rank 10 divine rank pill furnace double dragon cauldron and the rank 10 divine rank pill fire ice phoenix flame, the pills he refined improved by leaps and bounds. Now, he could refine pills with 7 dragon-shaped pill chi. Whether it was pill veins or dragon-shaped pill chi, even if there were more than half of them, the effect was like heaven and earth, not to mention 3 more dragon-shaped pill chi. And before. The madman smashed into the mountain and immediately consumed a life divine pill with 7 dragon-shaped pill chi. So. Although he was still dripping with blood on the surface, his injuries had mostly recovered. What's wrong? You seem very unhappy. The madman looked at Yi Yuan playfully. Haha, this young master admits that your life is indeed tough. Yi Yuan laughed. Wrong. It's not that I am tough, it's that I am lucky to have a group of good partners. The madman shook his head. If it weren't for Dan Wuxia's pill, even if he could save his life, he wouldn't have the power to fight now. Are you talking about him? But he doesn't seem to have done anything. Yi Yuan pointed at Qin Feiyang. He is one of them. As for what you said, he didn't do anything. I don't agree with that. Because he is supporting me mentally. The madman said. Mental support? Yi Yuan was taken aback. These people were indeed sick. What was the use of mental support? A playboy like you who has been protected since young and hasn't experienced any hardships will never understand the meaning of companions. The madman shook his head. Good, good, good. After I kill you, this young master will fulfill your wish and let him accompany you. As Yi Yuan finished speaking, the blood in his body surged and like a meteor, he instantly appeared in front of the madman. After being arrogant for so long, it's time to shut you up. The madman's body shook, and a murderous aura no less than Yi Yuan's roared out from his body. Blood Demon Domain. The next moment. A giant barrier appeared and instantly enveloped the entire area. Yi Yuan's cultivation immediately began to plummet. As his cultivation plummeted, his physical body and strength also plummeted. What? This is, Yi Yuan's face paled. Third Xing's eyes also opened wide. They were not the only ones. At this moment, almost everyone present was staring at the Blood Devil region in bewilderment. At the same time, the mayor, Elder Yu, and Zhuo Tianxing looked at each other, the worry in their eyes growing. The madman's blood demon domain was no longer a secret. Once the blood demon domain appeared, his identity would definitely be recognized. As expected. Third Xing came back to his senses and immediately looked at them, asking, that madman Mo you guys were talking about, seems to also have this type of god technique? Yes. The mayor bit the bullet and nodded. No need to guess, I am the madman Mo you guys are looking for. The madman took a face-restoring pill and instantly regained his original appearance. It really is him. I knew it, who would be so daring to kill Zhuo Tianxing's sons and provoke the vice leader's grandson. If he is madman Mo, then wouldn't the other one be? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled and also took out a face-restoring pill, quickly revealing his true appearance. As expected, everyone smiled bitterly. It really was these two lawless people. Chapter 3071. So it's you guys. Yi Yuan stood in the blood demon domain, looking at the two with murderous intent. Why did he come to Windsea City? Wasn't it for these two people? Yes, it's us. Madman nodded. The blood demon domain enveloped all directions, and Yi Yuan's cultivation fell to the small success 9th heaven realm. Yi Yuan's eyes flashed as he quickly retreated, wanting to leave the blood demon domain. Because only by leaving the blood demon domain would his cultivation recover. Or else. With just the small success 9th heaven realm cultivation, how could he fight with this person? Was madman stupid? He was not stupid. Of course he knew Yi Yuan's intentions. With a cruel laugh, he took a step forward and landed in front of Yi Yuan. Because as his cultivation plummeted, his speed was far from before. Who asked you to be arrogant for so long? Let me be arrogant for a while. Madman raised his arm, grabbed Yi Yuan's arm, and pulled it hard. Ah! Yi Yuan immediately screamed, his entire arm was torn off, blood flowing like a river. Young master. Xing San's expression changed. Yi Yuan said gloomily, I said before, no one is allowed to interfere. But, Xing San was extremely anxious. If Yi Yuan died in Wind Sea City, would the Vice Alliance leader let him go? Definitely not. But he did not dare to disobey Yi Yuan's words. And from Yi Yuan's tone, it seemed like he still had something to rely on. Might as well wait and see. Arrogant. Continue. What did those girls do wrong? You have to treat them like this. Do you still have his humanity? Madman took another step forward, raised his hand and slapped Yi Yuan's face. Yi Yuan's entire body flew out, his face was split open, flesh and blood flying everywhere, looking especially hideous. You like to bully women, right? All right. I'll fulfill your wish, and let you directly become a woman. Madman was still not satisfied. He took a step forward and kicked Yi Yuan's lower body. Woo! Yi Yuan's entire body was lying in the air, howling like a pig being slaughtered. That's it. Satisfying, too satisfying. When the people in the city below saw this scene, they all had a look of satisfaction. This kind of beast should be dealt with like this. I don't think I'm a good person. Countless women have died in my hands. But I've never humiliated them like this before, especially innocent girls. You're worse than a fucking animal. From your actions, I can tell what sort of trash your grandfather, that old dog, and your parents are. Madman was enraged. His divine power roared out as he sent a palm strike at Yi Yuan's head. Young master, Third Xing's expression changed and he was about to rescue him. Clang! But at this moment, accompanied by an ear-piercing sword hum, a stretch of sword light rushed out from Yi Yuan's body, instantly shattering the blood demon domain. Following closely, the sword energy tore through the sky and charged at the madman. Madman was shocked and dodged without thinking. The sword light swept past him and blasted into the sky. Rumble. A large part of the void instantly collapsed. Madman's back was covered in cold sweat. This sword light was definitely a heaven-defying divine artifact. Fortunately, his reaction was fast. Otherwise, he would have failed miserably. But thinking about it, as the grandson of the deputy chief, how could he only have such means? However, although the heaven-defying divine artifact was terrifying, it was still an external object. Only when one's own strength was strong, that was true strength. Yi Yuan's face was distorted as he got up and took out a pill. It was a divine life pill with 6 dragon-shaped core chi. Do you think this young master doesn't know your methods? Haha, ridiculous. You really think this young master is a hedonistic son who only knows how to bully others? Let me tell you, this young master has investigated you as soon as I arrived at Wind Sea City. This young master knows all of your methods, including you and a superior heaven-defying divine artifact. Knowing your situation, this young master still stayed in Wind Sea City to wait for you. Don't you think of anything? Yi Yuan's bruised face revealed a trace of ridicule. But it looked like he was laughing sinisterly, extremely terrifying. I have confidence. Madman shrugged. It seems that you're not stupid. That's right. If I didn't have confidence, would this young master dare to stay in Wind Sea City to wait for you? 2 wastes, do you really think you're invincible? Let's not talk about anything else. Let's talk about this divine life pill with 6 dragon-shaped pill chi. Do you two wastes have it? Yi Yuan laughed proudly and waved the divine life pill in his hand. Madman was stunned. Qin Feiyang was also stunned. Was the divine life pill with 6 dragon-shaped pill chi very awesome? Was this even qualified to show off? Sure enough. In the end, he was just a hedonistic son. Yi Yuan swallowed the divine life pill in one gulp, and the majestic life energy immediately healed the injuries on his body. The torn arm was also quickly reconstructed. Jealous? Jealous? It's a pity that you lowly ants will only ever be able to look on with envy. Prepare to despair. Yi Yuan laughed wildly and waved his hand. Following the emergence of a sword light, a dark battle sword appeared in front of him. The people in the city below looked at the battle sword, and their pupils contracted. This seemed to be a peak heaven-defying divine artifact. Not good. Yi Yuan had a peak heaven-defying divine artifact, while Qin Feiyang and Madman only had a high-level divine artifact. Although there was only a difference of 1 level, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. Peak heaven-defying divine artifact, Madman looked at the battle sword, and a smile flashed in his eyes. Qin Feiyang also had a smile in his eyes. Not only did he come to die, but he also delivered a peak heaven-defying divine artifact. This Yi Yuan was a good person. Kill! Yi Yuan shouted and grabbed the battle sword. With a loud clang, the battle sword instantly recovered, and its sharp edge destroyed everything as it attacked Madman. Madman dodged repeatedly. Why are you dodging? Didn't you say you wanted to be arrogant? Come, show me your arrogance. Yi Yuan laughed wildly. I'm scared. Who can beat a peak heaven-defying divine artifact? Madman said with a panicked expression. At least you have some self-awareness. Then obediently accept your death. Yi Yuan smiled proudly. Without the restriction of the blood demon domain, his cultivation returned to the initial stage imperishable realm, and his speed was already like Madman's. He caught up to Madman in a few steps and slashed furiously. You're really starting to be proud? Madman was stunned. A playboy was a playboy. No matter what, this kind of character could not be changed. Shua. He used a support technique and retreated like lightning. The sword slashed across his body, leaving behind a ghastly wound. Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. I'll slowly play you to death. I'll make you despair, make you regret, and make you not dare to be so arrogant in your next life. Yi Yuan sneered and chased after Madman. In the blink of an eye, Madman's body was covered in wounds. Seeing this scene, the hearts of the city lord and the others rose again. They shouldn't have been happy before. After all, Yi Yuan was the grandson of the vice leader. How could he not have a trump card? Difficult. The others sighed in their hearts. This Madman Mo was very strong, and it was hard to find an opponent in the same realm. But now, he was facing the grandson of the vice leader. One's own strength was very important, but the power of external objects could also play an absolute role. Dozens of breaths passed. Madman retreated to Qin Feiyang's side, dripping with blood. What? Are you going to ask him for help? Don't waste your energy. Because even if you work together, the result will be the same. Yi Yuan laughed. Madman and Qin Feiyang looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. This person was too arrogant. How far had they reached? Did he think he would win? Madman looked up at Yi Yuan and asked, Is that all you have? What? Yi Yuan, who was beside himself with joy, didn't seem to understand. Let me ask you, other than this peak-grade divine artifact, do you have any other methods? Madman said. Yi Yuan was stunned and then sneered, with the slaughter magic sword, do I need any other methods? The slaughter magic sword, Madman muttered and nodded, not bad, not bad. It's a good name, very suitable for me. I'll use it in the future to kill scum like you. Yi Yuan looked at Madman in shock. Very suitable for him? He wanted to steal the slaughter magic sword from him? Was there something wrong with his brain? What was he thinking? Steal the slaughter magic sword? Did he have the ability? Madman waved his hand, and a divine life pill appeared. What? Looking at this divine life pill, everyone was in disbelief. 1, 2, 5, 7, it was actually a divine life pill with 7 dragon-shaped core qi. How is this possible? A divine life pill with 7 dragon-shaped core qi, 3rd Xing, City Lord, Shuo Tiansheng, and Elder Yu were the same. Needless to say, Yi Yuan was even more shocked. He was mocking others before, but in the blink of an eye, the other party took out a divine life pill with 7 dragon-shaped core qi. This was a blatant slap to his face. I wanted to keep a low profile, but you don't know what's good for you. You keep showing off in front of me with a divine life pill with 6 dragon-shaped core qi. I really don't understand. What's so good about a mere divine life pill with 6 dragon-shaped core qi? Madman shook his head and threw the divine life pill into his mouth. The life energy of 6 dragon-shaped core qi was already so terrifying, not to mention 7 dragon-shaped core qi. The injuries on Madman's body increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is impossible, Yi Yuan shook his head in disbelief. How could such an ant have a pill of this level? You're surprised? Don't worry, there's more to come. Madman smiled mockingly and extended his hand in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled, and with a thought, the golden scale sword appeared. Madman grabbed the golden scale sword and looked at Yi Yuan. He said playfully, "Take a good look, what level is this heaven-defying divine artifact?" Yi Yuan stared at the golden scale sword, his eyes filled with shock. The people in the city below, including 3rd Xing and the city lord, all looked at the golden scale sword suspiciously. Golden scale sword, awaken and show them. Madman said. Accompanied by a loud clanging sound, the golden scale sword was completely revived. The sword qi swept in all directions, and the void immediately collapsed crazily. Chapter 3072. This is, the moment the golden scale sword fully awakened, Yi Yuan was like a bolt from the blue, his mind rumbling. Didn't they say that these two's divine weapons were only high level? But why is it a pinnacle level divine weapon now? That's right. This is a pinnacle level divine weapon, not losing to the slaughter magic sword in his hands at all. As the grandson of the vice leader, you do have the right to look down on others. Unfortunately, you found the wrong target this time. Madman laughed, holding the golden scale sword, he charged towards Yi Yuan. Young master, Xing San took a step forward. Stand there and don't move. Yi Yuan roared. Xing San's body stiffened. Yi Yuan stared at Madman. A pinnacle-level divine weapon, and a life god pill with 7 dragon-shaped pill qi, he felt that what he had done before was just like a clown's performance. This made the anger and resentment in his heart more and more uncontrollable. He didn't want Xing San's help. Because he wanted to tear this madman apart with his own hands, and wash away this humiliation. Clang! The slaughter magic sword awakened. The two madly attacked each other. The collision of 2 pinnacle-level divine weapons was enough to destroy heaven and earth. The void above Feng Hai City collapsed piece by piece. The two fought until the sky darkened, and the sun and moon lost their light. So what if you have a pinnacle-level divine weapon? My body will become stronger and stronger, you will die in my hands sooner or later. Yi Yuan roared. The blood demon domain was useless now. Because as long as Madman activates the Blood Demon domain, the Slaughter magic sword would instantly destroy it. In other words, the divine weapon had lost its meaning now. Of course. Except for the heaven-defying divine weapon. After all, the heaven-defying divine weapon and the heaven-defying divine weapon belonged to the same level. There was also the Blood Demon technique. The Blood Demon technique increased cultivation, unless there was a special method, like the God domain of the dragons, that could make the Blood Demon technique ineffective, otherwise it would not be forcefully cut off. But now, even if Madman activates the Blood Demon technique, it wouldn't mean much. Madman looked at Yi Yuan. Indeed. Following Yi Yuan's injury, his body was still gradually becoming stronger. He could basically conclude that this divine art that allowed Yi Yuan to become strong was definitely a kind of heaven-defying divine artifact. To be honest, if it was anyone else, they would have already died in Yi Yuan's hands. But it was still the same. This time, Yi Yuan found the wrong target. Although Frenzy didn't have a powerful family background like Yi Yuan, the means he had wouldn't be any less than Yi Yuan. Clang! As the golden light surged, the Sky Piercer appeared. This is a heaven-defying divine art. Third Xing mumbled. The golden scale sword attacked the magic sword, while the Fang Tian halberd attacked Yi Yuan. A mere low-grade heaven-defying divine art wants to shake my current physical body? The contempt on Yi Yuan's face deepened. The magic sword of slaughter clashed with the golden scale sword. The moment the two peak-level heaven-defying divine weapons clashed, an apocalyptic sharpness erupted. At the same time, Yi Yuan raised his arm and actually slapped the halberd with his bare hands. This was because his physical body and strength had already been enhanced to a heaven-defying level. Therefore, even if it was a halberd formed from a heaven-defying divine art, he was not afraid at all. Kacha! Yi Yuan's large hand and the halberd clashed, a terrifying force surged, and the halberd actually shattered. Frenzy was dazed. This Yi Yuan's physical body and strength had unknowingly increased to the level of a middle-grade heaven-defying divine weapon. What does this mean? My physical body and strength will continue to grow stronger. Now I'm not afraid to tell you, this is a peak-level heaven-defying divine art. In other words, my physical body and strength will eventually reach the peak level. At that time, I won't even need the magic sword of slaughter, just this physical body is enough to crush you into pieces. Yi Yuan laughed maniacally. It's actually a peak-level heaven-defying divine art, Frenzy muttered. The heaven-defying divine art he grasped was only a low-grade heaven-defying divine art. Compared to a peak-level heaven-defying divine art, there was a difference of several levels. And it was indeed as Yi Yuan said, when his physical body reached the level of a peak-level heaven-defying divine weapon, he could completely take on the golden scale sword with his bare hands. Let me ask you, will you never despair? Yi Yuan laughed loudly. Despair? Frenzy smirked. Not to mention that Yi Yuan's physical body and strength had yet to reach the level of a peak-level heaven-defying divine weapon, even if it reached that level, he would not be afraid. Because now, not only the golden scale sword, the axe and the sunset divine bow, these heaven-defying divine weapons had also evolved to the level of a peak-level heaven-defying divine weapon. When all of them are summoned, dozens of peak-level heaven-defying divine weapons would be destroyed like dry weeds. However, there was no need for that. He did not want to trouble these heaven-defying divine weapons for such a playboy. Don't be afraid, this young master said before, I won't kill you immediately, you still have a chance to struggle, continue. Yi Yuan had a mocking smile as he charged towards Frenzy again. You, really displayed the characteristics of a playboy to the fullest. With a slight advantage, you start to show off. I just want to know, what are you showing off for? Frenzy waved his hand, a monstrous killing intent erupted, in the next moment, a blood-red sword appeared. The second profound of the slaughter law, killing God's sword. Clang! The killing god's sword tore through the sky, bringing with it an apocalyptic sharpness as it slashed towards Yi Yuan. It was common knowledge that the profound of law could compete with heaven-defying divine techniques. The higher the profound, the more powerful it was. Even the ultimate profound would surpass a heaven-defying divine technique. The killing god's sword belonged to the second profound, its lethality was already comparable to a mid-level heaven-defying divine technique. And Yi Yuan's physical body had already reached the mid-level, but even so, a wound immediately appeared on his body. What? The wound was not deep, it could only be called a superficial wound, but even so, Yi Yuan was shocked. It could actually hurt his physical body? This seems to be. Xing San looked at the killing god's sword in shock, his eyes suddenly trembled as he shouted, "Young master, be careful, this is the second profound of the slaughter law, killing god's sword." What? The second profound of the slaughter law? How is this possible? He's only at the initial stage of the imperishable realm. For someone with this cultivation, not to mention the second profound, to be able to comprehend the first profound is already very rare, a rare genius in the world. Many people have to reach the great perfection imperishable realm and experience countless years before they can comprehend the power of the first law. Everyone was shocked. This was a true monster. What was Yi Yuan in front of him? Amazing, the city lord also looked at Madman in a daze. He transmitted his voice, "Old Zhua, you found a good son-in-law." Yes. Initial stage of the imperishable realm, and he already comprehended the second profound. Not many people in the younger generation of the entire sky cloud boundary can do this. Elder Yu secretly said. This has nothing to do with me, it's Xiao Xian's good taste. Old Zhua secretly laughed. Look at your proud face. The city lord secretly rolled his eyes at Zhua Tiansheng, then said, but why was such a monstrous person a nobody in the past? Maybe he's low-key. Elder Yu smiled. Low-key? The city lord was slightly stunned, he smiled bitterly, maybe. It can't be, this must be a misconception. Yi Yuan looked at the god-slaying sword in Madman's hand, he kept shaking his head, as if he found it hard to accept. As the grandson of the Vice Alliance Master, he was personally trained by his grandfather since he was young, but until now, he had yet to comprehend the power of the first law. And the other party was just a lowly ant, how could he comprehend the power of the first law? And he had even comprehended the second profound? Now tell me, what is the capital you have to show off in front of me? The madman looked at him with contempt. No. I don't believe it. Yi Yuan roared, the magic sword crazily attacked the golden scale sword. At the same time, he angrily rushed towards Madman, punching the god-slaying sword. This must be an illusion. He wanted to break this illusion and let everyone know that this person was not a genius at all, but just a clown pretending. For a playboy like you, this is indeed a very difficult thing to accept. Madman shook his head and slashed with his sword. Clang! Yi Yuan's fist and the god-slaying sword collided. A wound appeared on his fist, blood staining the sky. It's true, Yi Yuan's expression was dazed. You think I'm joking with you? You're just relying on your grandfather's might, otherwise, just based on yourself, what are you? I'm afraid you're not even worthy of being a clown. Madman's face was filled with mockery. The Vice Alliance Master personally trained him, but he only had this bit of ability, wasn't this a joke? He slashed with his sword. Another wound appeared on Yi Yuan's body. Not even worthy of being a clown, Yi Yuan lowered his head, ignoring the wound on his body. He seemed to have suffered a huge blow. Young master, Xing San was burning with anxiety. Not to mention Yi Yuan, even he had underestimated Madman's strength. Bullying men and women, committing all kinds of crimes, people like you, living in this world is a waste of air. Atone for your sins. Madman's face was filled with disgust, the god-slaying sword flashed and slashed towards Yi Yuan's head. But at this moment, Yi Yuan suddenly raised his head, his arm shot out and grabbed the god-slaying sword. This young master likes to bully men and women, what can you do to this young master? Yi Yuan smiled sinisterly, a loud noise suddenly sounded from within his body. A terrifying power suddenly roared out, as he clenched his hand, the god-slaying sword was instantly crushed into pieces. Not good. His physical body and strength has already increased to the level of a high-level god artifact. The city lord secretly exclaimed. Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu's hearts also sank. Xing San let out a sigh of relief. The power of the second profound was equivalent to a middle-level god artifact. And now, the young master's physical body and strength had increased again, it was already equivalent to a high-level god artifact. With a difference of one small realm, this madman was definitely not the young master's opponent. Are you in despair again? Yi Yuan looked at Madman, his face filled with mockery. Sigh. Madman sighed. Why is he sighing? Everyone was suspicious. Madman looked at Yi Yuan, shaking his head. It's true, I can't help but feel sorry for your grandfather, raising such an idiot like you. You're courting death. Yi Yuan punched towards Madman. Isn't that so? I dared to come to Wine Sea City without fear. Do you think I relied on my courage? Wrong. It's strength. Madman roared, the law of slaughter surged out, turning into a blood-colored storm, emitting a world-destroying ferocious aura, whistling towards Yi Yuan. Chapter 3073. At this moment, the entire world was shrouded in a murderous aura. Madman was like a god of death, standing high in the sky with a ruthless indifference in his eyes. The rolling clouds in the sky seemed to be dyed in blood, emitting a shocking aura. This is, Third Xing's eyes widened in anger. His heart, which had just calmed down, rose again. Impossible. This must be a dream. At the same time, Elder Yu, Zhuo Tiansheng, and the city lord all looked at the bloody storm in shock. Damn, is he still human? On the other side, Yun Xiang couldn't help but curse. What's wrong? Is this bloody storm very strong? Yi Miao and the lord of Tianyue Tower looked at him suspiciously. Of course it's strong. Because this is the third profound of the law of slaughter, killing intent domain. Yun Xiang said. What? The third profound? The two girls looked at Madman in shock. The fact that he had activated the second profound was already unacceptable enough. Now, he had even activated the third profound. This little madman was definitely not human. Because a normal human, no matter how monstrous, could not comprehend the third profound at the initial stage of undying. Who is he? The third profound, how did he do it? Hearing Yun Xiang's voice, the other people in the city were also shocked to the extreme. If the second profound was shocking, then the third profound was enough to make people go crazy. The scene was dead silent. Everyone looked at Madman in shock. Monstrous. No. Monstrous could no longer be used to describe this man, he was a monster, a pervert. Woo woo, the bloody storm swept across the sky, shattering in all directions. Yi Yuan's eyes trembled. Even though his physical body and strength had been enhanced to the level of a high-grade divine artifact, he still felt a fatal danger. Because every wind blade in the bloody storm emitted the power of a high-grade divine artifact. In other words, once he was submerged in the storm, it was equivalent to being swallowed by countless high-grade divine artifacts. Even his physical body would find it difficult to withstand. After all, his physical body and strength had not been enhanced to the level of a peak-grade heaven-defying divine artifact yet. Someone who hasn't even comprehended the power of law dares to call himself a monster? Learn to keep a low profile like me. Madman waved his large hand. The blood-colored storm immediately accelerated, surging towards Yi Yuan like a giant python. That's right. Before leaving the Black Tortoise realm, Madman had already comprehended the third profound. Moreover, he had also comprehended the first profundity of the other two laws. As for Qin Feiyang, his gains were not small either. He had already comprehended the second profound of the karma laws, the thunder laws, and the light laws. Originally, he wanted to find this Yi Yuan to test his strength, but he was snatched away by lunatic, so he didn't get what he wanted. But he wasn't in a hurry. In any case, what the Sky Cloud realm didn't lack the most was opponents. Looking at the roaring storm, Yi Yuan's gaze trembled slightly as he hurriedly retreated like lightning. You want to leave? The corner of Madman's mouth lifted. Slaughter Law roared in all directions. A huge blood-colored enchantment descended from the sky, instantly enveloping Yi Yuan. Following closely. One after another, blood-colored storms constantly emerged. In just a moment, thousands of storms emerged within the blood-colored enchantment. This was the true face of the killing intent domain. Once trapped by the killing intent domain, one would face countless storms. At this moment, Yi Yuan couldn't help but panic. There were storms formed by the slaughter law in all directions. There was no way out at all. He clenched his teeth and punched towards a storm in front of him. Accompanied by a rumbling sound, this storm collapsed, but there were even more storms roaring. As long as the killing intent domain wasn't broken, the slaughter law would continue to produce storms until his divine soul and body were obliterated. Helpless, despair welled up in his heart. Suddenly, there was a scream. Yi Yuan's arm was crushed by more than a dozen storms. In just a few breaths, Yi Yuan's entire body was a bloody mess. Even his bones were exposed. Young master, Xing San couldn't bear it anymore. He tore apart the enchantment set up by the city lord and attacked the killing intent domain. Oh no! The pupils of the city lord and the other two shrank. But they didn't dare to stop him. At the same time, Qin Feiyang, who was not far away, narrowed his eyes slightly. Boom! However, at the same time, another figure tore apart the enchantment and appeared in front of Xing San at lightning speed. Qin Feiyang and the city lord and the other two immediately looked over and saw a white-haired old man. He looked a little stooped and his face was extremely old. However, the aura he exuded was no weaker than Xing San. What are you doing? Xing San glared at the white-haired old man. You're a perfected dominator. Are you going to bully a junior? The white-haired old man laughed hoarsely. It's none of your business. Xing San said angrily. Is your rogue cultivator alliance getting carried away? Have you forgotten who's the overlord of the eastern continent? The white-haired old man's eyes turned cold. Xing San raised his eyebrows. He's from the demonic palace? Qin Feiyang looked at the white-haired old man suspiciously. He's from the demonic palace and the tower master of our Wind Sea City's demonic tower. Zhuo Tiancheng's voice rang in Qin Feiyang's mind. I see. Qin Feiyang mumbled. However, why was this person helping them? Was it because of Elder Hua? Although the demonic palace and the rogue cultivator alliance have an agreement to develop peacefully and not interfere with each other, the rogue cultivator alliance seems to be getting more and more out of hand these years. Take Yi Yuan for example. He's been committing crimes in the Wind Sea City all day long and has already aroused public anger. The white-haired old man spoke. The coldness in his words was even more intense. This is young master's fault. The deputy alliance master will naturally discipline him. Xing San looked at the white-haired old man gloomily. That's a matter for the future. Now, since it's a one-on-one battle, please don't interfere. The white-haired old man said. Why are you helping them? Are they related to the demonic palace? Xing San was burning with anxiety. You have no right to ask and I have no obligation to answer you. The white-haired old man's words were vague and made one's imagination run wild. Xing San clenched his fists tightly. Suddenly. A painful scream came out from the killing intent domain. Xing San quickly looked over and saw countless wind blades tearing Yi Yuan's body apart and piercing through his lower abdomen. His Qi was finally shattered. Once his Qi was shattered, Yi Yuan's aura immediately sank. The strength of his physical body and strength also immediately fell to its original state. Without a strong physical body, the blood-colored storm almost instantly tore his body apart. Young master, Xing San threw a punch at the white-haired old man and roared, "Get out of my way." The white-haired old man didn't back down at all and threw a palm over. The fist and palm met in an instant. Both of them took a step back and were evenly matched. The magic sword slayer also wanted to rescue Yi Yuan but was restrained by the golden scale sword and couldn't get away. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and sent a voice transmission to Frenzy, "Senior brother, don't kill him first." Frenzy was about to kill Yi Yuan when he heard Qin Feiyang's words. He was slightly stunned and then turned to look at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Bring him over here." Qin Feiyang thought to himself. Frenzy nodded and grabbed Yi Yuan and landed beside Qin Feiyang. The killing intent domain also dissipated. At this moment, only half of Yi Yuan's body was left. He was dripping with blood and looked so pitiful. At the same time, the golden scale sword also separated from the magic sword slayer. The golden scale sword returned to Qin Feiyang and Frenzy's side to protect them. The magic sword slayer floated in front of them, its aura locked onto Qin Feiyang and Frenzy. But Qin Feiyang and Frenzy didn't care. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Yi Yuan and smiled, "Didn't I tell you? Don't look down on your senior brother, why won't you listen? You dare to kill me?" Yi Yuan was still clamoring. Still so arrogant? Frenzy's eyes were filled with killing intent. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand to stop Frenzy and looked at Yi Yuan. "You are the grandson of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's deputy chief, of course we don't dare to kill you." Hearing this, Yi Yuan smiled proudly. Xing San, who was stopped by the white-haired old man, couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. It seemed like these two people were still afraid of his Rogue Cultivator Alliance. But, suddenly, Qin Feiyang changed the topic and smiled, "If you want us to let you go, there is a condition." "Condition? You think you are qualified to negotiate with me?" Yi Yuan sneered. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This person really didn't know how to write death. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold as he grabbed Yi Yuan and pressed him into the air, giving him a beating. "Bastard, I will kill you!" Yi Yuan roared. "You still want to kill us?" Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback as he stomped on Yi Yuan's mouth, shattering his teeth. His entire face caved in as blood flowed out. "Can you stop for a moment?" After a round of beating, Qin Feiyang lowered his head to look at Yi Yuan and asked with a smile. Yi Yuan stared at Qin Feiyang with hatred. "A conceited person like you shouldn't have left behind a soul before coming to Win Sea City. So, if we kill you now, your life will be over." Qin Feiyang looked at him with a smile. Yi Yuan's pupils constricted. "How is it? Can you stop now?" Qin Feiyang said. A trace of fear appeared in Yi Yuan's eyes as he nodded his head unwillingly. "See, you are a typical example of not being honest. Without a beating, I have to beat you up." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Xing San looked at Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, "Don't talk nonsense, just say it, what are your conditions?" "It's very simple. Give us 2 magic sword and his heaven-defying divine art that can strengthen the body and strength. Qin Feiyang raised his head to look at Xing San and smiled. Xing San's face suddenly became extremely ugly as he said gloomily, "Aren't you afraid that you can't eat it? You don't have to worry about that." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Madman glanced at Qin Feiyang, only then did he understand that he was coveting 2 magic sword and the heaven-defying divine art. Immediately, he also looked at Xing San and smiled cruelly, "Our appetite is very big, a heaven-defying artifact and a heaven-defying divine art can barely cover the bottom." Xing San's face sank. Using a heaven-defying artifact and a heaven-defying divine art in exchange for Yi Yuan's life, I think for your rogue cultivator alliance, it is a very worthwhile thing. Let's talk about it later. You know very well in your heart, if Yi Yuan really dies here, the vice leader will definitely not let you go. In other words, this deal not only can save Yi Yuan's life, it can also save your life. Qin Feiyang smiled. Xing San was silent. Madman impatiently urged, "Hurry up, my patience is limited. Lord Envoy, agree to them. You have seen with your own eyes what they have done, there is nothing they can't do. Compared to the heaven-defying artifact and the heaven-defying divine art, the young master's life is more important." City Lord, Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu also ran up and advised. If Qin Feiyang and Madman could obtain 2 magic sword and that heaven-defying divine art, then their strength would increase by a lot. If Qin Feiyang and Madman became stronger, then Xiao Xian would be safer. So, on the surface, although they were thinking for Yi Yuan, but in reality, they were secretly helping Qin Feiyang and Madman. Chapter 3074. Third Xing's face was gloomy. At this time, the white-robed old man spoke again, "Don't force yourself, he's just a wastrel anyways, his death is a good thing for your rogue cultivator alliance." Third Xing immediately looked at the white-robed old man and said angrily, "You can't wait for young master to die?" The white-robed old man said hoarsely, "What's the point of this kind of scum living in this world?" Third Xing looked at the white-robed old man with a gloomy expression, then looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "Fine, I promise you." Straightforward. Qin Feiyang smiled, took out an empty jade strip and gave it to Yi Yuan. Third Xing looked at Yi Yuan and sighed, "Young master, give it to them." "Why?" Yi Yuan said angrily. "Because your life is in our hands." Madman smiled coldly. Yi Yuan's pupils contracted, but his heart was filled with unwillingness. "Young master, don't worry, this is just a temporary measure, when they let you go, I'll kill them immediately." Third Xing transmitted. Yi Yuan heard this and his heart was instantly excited. Xing San then transmitted his voice to the 3 castellans. "Later, when Qin Feiyang and the others release young noble, I'll immediately restrain that damn old man Mo Lu. At that time, you must kill Qin Feiyang and the castellan." "Yes." The 3 secretly replied. But in the blink of an eye, Zhuo Tiansheng secretly told Qin Feiyang and Madman about Third Xing's plan. When the 2 heard this, they sneered in their hearts. Madman kicked Yi Yuan, his eyes filled with murderous intent as he shouted, "Hurry up." Yi Yuan hurriedly took the jade slip and recorded the divine art on it. "Very good." Madman grabbed the jade strip and looked at the magic sword of slaughter. Third Xing said in a low voice, "The magic sword of slaughter has its own consciousness, it's not something we can control. In other words, if you want it to go with you, it'll depend on your own abilities." Madman's lips curled up, looked at the magic sword of slaughter and said, "Trust us, as long as you follow us, I guarantee you'll transform into a dominator divine weapon." "What? Transforming into a sovereign weapon?" Hearing this, Third Xing paused, then looked at Madman Qin Feiyang as if he was looking at an idiot. He actually dared to say such big words? Magic Sword Slayer didn't believe it either. Even Zhuo Tiansheng and the others thought it was a joke. Madman said, "How about this, we'll give you a place first, and then you can make your choice." "All right." Magic Sword Slayer's voice rang out and instantly landed beside the two of them. Madman said, "Erase the blood contract first." Normally, no one would be able to control a heaven-defying divine weapon like the Slayer magic sword. As long as they were willing, he could erase the blood contract. Of course. If it was someone with a higher cultivation than them, it would be a different story. For example, supreme existences like Elder Hua and Elder Hai. At their level, other than sovereign weapons, no other divine weapons could escape their control. The current owner of the magic sword is Yi Yuan. Based on Yi Yuan's cultivation, it was naturally impossible to control it. After Madman said that, the magic sword slayer pondered for a bit before erasing Yi Yuan's blood contract. Qin Feiyang also waved his hand and sent the magic sword slayer to the Black Tortoise world. A moment later, the magic sword slayer appeared. "How is it?" Madman looked at it with a teasing expression. "I'll go with you." Magic Sword Slayer's voice had a hint of excitement that was hard to hide. Third Xing, Yi Yuan, the mayor and the others all looked at the Magic Sword Slayer in shock. What's going on? It was actually willing to go with the two of them? Third Xing came back to his senses and said in a low voice, "Can you let him go now? Forget about the Magic Sword Slayer's situation, saving the young master was more important." "All right, we'll let him go." Madman nodded. "Prepare to attack. We can't let them escape." Third Xing sent a message to the three of them. "All right." The three of them replied in secret. Since they had already informed Qin Feiyang and Elder Hua, whether or not they could escape depended on their abilities. Then they looked at Madman and Qin Feiyang. The two of them looked at each other, and an imperceptible light flashed across their eyes at the same time. "Vice Leader?" Suddenly, the two of them looked behind Third Xing and the others at the same time and exclaimed, "Vice Leader!" Third Xing and the others were shocked and immediately turned around to look. It was also at this moment. With a thought from Qin Feiyang, Qin Batian appeared and immediately activated the spacetime law, and a spacetime portal appeared. "They lied to you guys!" Yi Yuan hurriedly exclaimed. Because he was standing with Qin Feiyang and Elder Hua, he could see the situation behind Third Xing and the others without turning around. Grandpa did not appear. What? Third Xing was shocked when he heard that. But at the same time, Madman's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he slammed his palm towards Yi Yuan's head. Ah! With a shrill scream, Yi Yuan's head exploded like a watermelon, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. His god soul was also annihilated. Third Xing turned around to look at this scene, and instantly gritted his teeth. "We'll meet again if fate wills it." Madman waved his hand and smiled. Qin Batian waved his hand, swept up the two of them, and rushed into the spacetime portal without looking back, and disappeared in an instant. "Bastard!" Third Xing roared, and madly rushed towards the portal. Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two looked at each other, and also looked devastated, and followed Third Xing. But at this moment, the white-haired old man waved his hand, and a surge of divine power blasted towards the portal. The portal immediately collapsed and disappeared into the void. This way, Third Xing could not chase after them even if he wanted to. "You!" Third Xing was immediately enraged, and turned to stare at the white-haired old man. "They did a good deed, we can't let good people be bitterly disappointed, right?" The white-haired old man smiled faintly. The people in the city below all looked at the white-haired old man with admiration. Because the white-haired old man did what they did not dare to do. They also did not expect that Qin Feiyang and Elder Hua would be so daring, and really kill Yi Yuan. They originally thought that the two of them would let Yi Yuan go after getting the divine weapon and divine art. After all, he was the grandson of the vice leader. To kill him, it would take a lot of courage. And from now on, they would be hunted down by the Rogue Cultivators Alliance. After weighing the pros and cons, letting Yi Yuan go was the wisest choice. But they did not expect that the two of them were not afraid at all. Not only did they kill Yi Yuan, but they also got two powerful divine weapons and divine art, killing two birds with one stone. This kind of courage was truly admirable. Third Xing stared at the white-haired old man, and said, "Is the Demon Palace planning to declare war on the Rogue Cultivators Alliance?" Declare war? The white-haired old man was slightly taken aback, and said with a hoarse laugh, "Does the Rogue Cultivators Alliance have what it takes to fight the Demon Palace?" Third Xing clenched his fists tightly. "Don't overestimate yourself. Although the Rogue Cultivators Alliance has grown stronger, but you know the gap between us and the Demon Palace." The white-haired old man had a hint of disdain in his eyes, and turned to leave after saying that. "Come with me, kill him." Third Xing shouted. Boom! His aura rolled out. Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two looked at each other, and could only brace themselves and release their aura. "What? You really want to start a war?" The white-haired old man turned around and looked at the four of them without fear. "You have to give us an explanation for the death of the young master." Third Xing walked towards the white-haired old man step by step. Qin Feiyang and Yi Yuan had run away, so he could only look for the white-haired old man, or else he would not be able to report back. Explanation? The white-haired old man shook his head and smiled, and bowed, "Welcome, Elder Hua." "Elder Hua?" Third Xing's eyes trembled. "Shua." In the next instant, a fiery red figure appeared in front of the white-haired old man. Who else could it be but Elder Hua? Looking at Elder Hua, not only Third Xing, but the city lord and the other two could not help but tremble. Elder Hua had his hands behind his back as he scanned the four of them. Finally, his gaze landed on Third Xing, and he said, "Tell me, what explanation do you need from me?" Third Xing looked at Elder Hua in fear, not daring to speak. "Say something." Elder Hua took a step forward, and a vast divine aura rolled out. Puff! Third Xing immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying, his face pale. So strong. Everyone was shocked. Just a divine aura was enough to send Third Xing flying. "Do you still need an explanation?" Elder Hua asked with a smile. "No need, no need." Third Xing hurriedly waved his hands. "Then why aren't you scramming?" Elder Hua shouted. Third Xing carried Yi Yuan's body in a panic and began to teleport away using the altar. "What is this? How dare you ask for an explanation from the Demon Hall?" Elder Hua was very domineering as he looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two. The three of them hurriedly lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at him. They were secretly complaining in their hearts. Why was this old man here? However, they did not know that Elder Hua was not only there, but he had been following Qin Feiyang and Zhuo Tiansheng. Therefore, Elder Hua had seen everything that they had done. "Do you need an explanation?" Elder Hua asked. "No need, no need." The three of them hurriedly waved their hands. Elder Hua glanced at the three of them indifferently, turned to look at the white-haired old man, and said, "You can stay in Wind Sea City peacefully. If the Rogue Cultivator Alliance dares to find trouble with you, I will not let them off." "Yes." The white-haired old man bowed and replied. Elder Hua lowered his head and glanced at the people of Wind Sea City. He then activated an altar and left quickly. This is so satisfying, so satisfying. The people in the city below immediately laughed out loud. Yi Yuan's actions in Wind Sea City over the years had long aroused the anger of the people. The Demon Hall had stepped forward to protect Qin Feiyang and Zhuo Tiansheng this time, which made them quite satisfied. Their view of the demon hall also began to change. It seemed that the demon hall was not as domineering as they had thought in the past. They still had human feelings. The city lord also heaved a sigh of relief and transmitted his voice, "Old Zhua, Elder Yu, do you think this Elder Hua just happened to pass by, or has he been paying attention?" "What do you mean?" The two of them were secretly shocked. "If he just happened to pass by, then it's fine. It means that he's just fighting for justice. But if he has been paying attention, then it means that Qin Feiyang and Zhuo Tiansheng must have some connection with the demon hall." The city lord transmitted his voice. The two of them looked at each other when they heard this. The city lord continued, "To be honest, I hope it's the latter." "Why?" The two of them were suspicious. If they are really related to the demon hall, then it's safer for Xiao Xian to follow them. The city lord thought. That makes sense. The two of them nodded without leaving a trace. "Alright, I'll go back first. You guys stay behind to deal with the aftermath. The Deputy Alliance leader will definitely be furious. I have to think of a way to deal with him." After the city lord said that, he turned around and flew back to the city lord mansion. Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu looked at each other. Not only were they not worried at all, they even relaxed. Everyone had seen this matter. Yi Yuan's death was something they could not stop. Even if the Deputy Alliance leader wanted to blame someone, he could not blame them. The only thing they had to consider now was the Deputy Alliance leader's revenge on Qin Feiyang and Zhuo Tiansheng. However, from this matter, they believed that Qin Feiyang and Zhuo Tiansheng had the ability to deal with it. Therefore, they did not need to worry anymore. They just needed to play their part and not cause trouble for the two of them. Chapter 3075. Black Tortoise World. Huh, it's been a long time since I had such a good fight, it feels so good. Madman laughed loudly. Only you can still laugh after killing the grandson of the vice leader. Qin Badian looked at Madman speechlessly. What are you afraid of? If my strength allows, I will even kill that old bastard grandson of the vice leader. Madman had a look of disdain. Qin Badian was speechless. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "You guys better stop." Saying so, he turned around and returned home to continue comprehending the profound laws. After watching Qin Badian enter the house, Qin Feiyang also retracted his gaze and turned to Madman, "Don't be so cocky. Have you ever thought about why the Lord of Wind Sea City's Demon Tower helped us? Is there a need to ask? It must be because we are popular." Madman smiled narcissistically. "I'm serious." Qin Feiyang glared at him and asked, "Could it be Elder Hua's order?" "Who else could it be?" Madman pouted. Qin Feiyang said, "It seems that Elder Hua really cares about us. Then who knows what he is thinking about?" Madman sneered. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "He should know about the existence of the ancient castle and Black Tortoise World, so we can't rule out some possibilities. Of course, it is also possible that he purely admires us." "No, he admires me. As for you? Forget it, you have no talent and no looks. You are far inferior to me." Madman smiled narcissistically. "I think you are too arrogant." Qin Feiyang glared at Madman. Killing Yi Yuan made him so proud? Don't be envious, don't be jealous. Madman laughed. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and turned to Magic Sword Slayer and smiled, "How is it? Are you satisfied with the Black Tortoise World? Who the hell are you?" The Magic Sword Slayer's artifact spirit asked in shock. Qin Feiyang said, "Didn't you see it? We're just two ordinary people. Can ordinary people have an independent world? Who are you kidding?" Magic Sword Slayer was speechless. "It doesn't matter who we are, but there's something you have to remember in your heart. Don't even think about betraying us." Madman looked at Magic Sword Slayer and said. Magic Sword Slayer coldly snorted, "You dare to make me leave now? I won't leave. You're already acting shamelessly." Madman was stunned. "How is it? You bit me?" Magic Sword Slayer sneered. Fine, fine, fine. I admit defeat." Madman was speechless and then took out the jade slip. Qin Feiyang immediately looked over, his eyes shining. "This is mine. Don't you dare try anything funny." Madman immediately hid behind him, guarding against Qin Feiyang like he was guarding against a thief. "What attitude? I just want to take a look," Qin Feiyang said angrily. "Do you think I'm so naive that I'll believe your nonsense?" Madman looked at him with disdain. Qin Feiyang smiled. To be honest, he was a bit tempted. After all, it was a peak heaven-defying divine art. Madman asked, "Seriously, what's the level of your 6-word divine art?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and shook his head. "Don't tell me, I really don't know. But from the power of the kill word divine art, it shouldn't be simple." "The power of the kill word divine art isn't simple, but the battle word divine art, walk word divine art, and return word divine art don't seem that strong," Madman muttered. "The battle word divine art isn't strong enough? It can negate 90% of the attack power?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Madman said, "But compared to the kill word divine art, don't you think it's still lacking?" "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. After pondering for a while, he shook his head. "I just copied the 6-word divine art. I didn't really comprehend it, so I don't know its true potential." "Then you know a lot about the power of law. Why don't you go and study it?" Madman suggested. In the past, because he was unfamiliar with the power of law, Qin Feiyang didn't take it too seriously when he copied the 6-word divine art. But it was different now. He had stepped into the imperishable realm and grasped 3 types of power of law. To be honest, he should study the 6-word divine art. If the kill word divine art is so powerful, then the walk word divine art, return word divine art, and battle word divine art shouldn't be as simple as what we see now. Madman said. "Okay. I'll find some time to study it." Qin Feiyang nodded. If the slaughter domain of the kill word divine art was fully activated, it might be able to clash with sovereign weapons. This meant that the kill word divine art had surpassed the level of a heaven-defying divine art. In other words, perhaps they were wrong from the start. The 6-word divine art wasn't a heaven-defying divine art. It was a sovereign divine art. Of course. This point still needed to be further verified. Next, the two released their divine sense into the jade slip to check this peak heaven-defying divine art. Battle word secret art. This was the name of this divine art. Using battle as the source, it combined with one's blood to increase the strength of one's physical body and power. At most, it could increase one's physical body and power to the level of a peak heaven-defying divine artifact. This was equivalent to a sovereign at the late stage. It could be said that, for the current them, this was a very powerful heaven-defying divine art. With this battle word secret art, they would have the ability to fight against a sovereign at the late stage. Of course. This was the same as the slaughter domain. It needed to be strengthened. If they really fought against a sovereign at the late stage, the sovereign at the late stage would probably be killed before the slaughter domain could be strengthened. Therefore, before truly fighting against a sovereign at the late stage, they had to use other methods to strengthen their physical body and power to the peak heaven-defying divine artifact. Compared to the slaughter zone, I feel that the battle's secret art is a bit simpler. At least we don't have to kill innocents and absorb their blood. The madman said. Do I have the ability to kill innocents now? Qin Feiyang frowned. Right now, the living beings of the Black Tortoise world were contributing their blood, so there was no need to kill them and collect their blood like before. Just like now. The living beings of the Black Tortoise world had always been providing blood, so the sea of blood in the western region had been filled up again. In other words, if he faced a sovereign weapon now, he could activate the slaughter domain again. I'm talking about before. The madman rolled his eyes and handed the jade slip to Qin Feiyang. If you want it, I'll give it to you. So generous? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback, then chuckled. Then I won't be polite. You really want it? The madman's face darkened. He hurriedly put away the jade slip and kicked Qin Feiyang. I knew you wouldn't be willing. All right, this is your spoils of war. How can I fight with you for it? Besides, compared to me, this battle word's secret art is more suitable for a battle maniac like you. Qin Feiyang shook his head. At least you have some conscience. The madman chuckled, then turned and ran into the castle to comprehend in seclusion. Qin Feiyang, madman mo, come out. Suddenly, an old voice sounded from outside. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Wasn't this Elder Hua's voice? How did this old man know they were hiding here? Shua. Qin Feiyang left the Black Tortoise world and saw Elder Hua standing in the void in front of him. I knew you guys were still hiding here. Elder Hua laughed. You're following us? Qin Feiyang frowned. Cough cough. Elder Hua coughed dryly with an awkward expression. Don't make it sound so bad. I'm just concerned about you guys. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Only this old man in front of him could make it sound so noble. Where's Madman Mo? Elder Hua glanced behind Qin Feiyang and asked. In seclusion. Qin Feiyang said. You're really hard-working. Elder Hua smiled with relief. Of course. There are so many experts in the Sky Cloud realm. If we don't work hard, wouldn't we be trampled under their feet? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, then looked at Elder Hua strangely and asked, You were also in Wind Sea City just now? Yes. Elder Hua nodded. So, it's really you who asked the Demon Tower Lord to help us? Qin Feiyang said. Of course. Other than this old man, who else has such a big face? Elder Hua smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang joked, Then the main reason you came this time should be to look for Senior Brother Madman, right? Ha! Elder Hua laughed dryly. As expected, he was a little fox. Nothing could escape his eyes. But thinking about it, to be able to comprehend the third profound at such a young age, who wouldn't be moved? Qin Feiyang laughed. Yes. Elder Hua walked in front of Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Look at the two of you. Both of you have such monstrous talents. How dangerous would it be to stay outside? So, follow this old man to the Demon Palace. As long as you enter the Demon Palace, even if the Rogue Cultivator Alliance has a few hundred guts, they won't dare to do anything to you. As expected, Qin Feiyang mumbled. He knew that Elder Hua came for this matter. He waved his hand and said, My talent isn't monstrous. The monstrous one is Senior Brother Madman. Don't say that. Although I haven't seen you use the power of law, this old man believes that you will comprehend it sooner or later. Elder Hua smiled encouragingly. Thank you for your encouragement. This junior will definitely work hard. Qin Feiyang nodded. This humble attitude made Elder Hua quite satisfied. He smiled and asked, then, about going to the Demon Palace. Not going. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Why? Elder Hua was stunned. Qin Feiyang sighed and said, To tell you the truth, we don't like to be restrained. No one is restraining you. You can do whatever you want. Elder Hua hurriedly said. That's what they say in the beginning. When you really enter and encounter any problems, there will be a lot of reasons to persuade you. I won't fall for it. Actually, the main reason is that we don't want to be protected by the demon palace. Because this will limit our growth. Think about it. If we ask the demon palace for help whenever we encounter any problems, how can we train ourselves in the face of difficulties? Humans have to experience many hardships before they can truly grow and become independent. Only then will they have the courage to face all difficulties. Qin Feiyang said. Elder Hua was more and more fond of Qin Feiyang and Madman when he heard these words. This was because young people nowadays liked to lean on trees to enjoy the shade. There were too few people who had such awareness. Chapter 3076. Alright. I wanted to convince you, but I didn't expect you to convince me instead. Elder Hua shook his head. Thank you for your understanding, senior. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. Elder Hua waved his hand and said, but there's something that we can work together on. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The vice leader wants to kill you. Elder Hua's eyes flickered. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He frowned and said, speaking of which, I'm really puzzled. Are you puzzled as to why the vice leader wants to kill you so badly? Elder Hua asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. This is also something that I can't figure out. Apart from a few people in the Demon Hall, only the people from the Blood Hall know that you're from the lower realm. Logically speaking, the vice leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance shouldn't make things difficult for you. After all, the person in the wrong is Wang Hui. Elder Hua said. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, is it possible that someone from the Demon Hall leaked the secret? Absolutely impossible. Other than this old man, the only people who know of your origins are the Hall Master and that girl, Chu Yun. Chu Yun and the Demon Hall are people that we absolutely trust. Elder Hua said. Could it be the Blood Hall? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. We think so too. Moreover, we suspect that the vice leader is backed by the Blood Hall. Elder Hua's eyes flashed coldly. Do you mean that although the vice leader is from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, he's actually from the Blood Hall? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Yes. That's actually not a big deal. What we're really worried about is whether the Blood Hall is behind the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Elder Hua said in a deep voice. That shouldn't be possible. The Rogue Cultivator Alliance is a super force in the Eastern Continent. I believe that some of them have secretly sided with the Blood Hall. However, I really can't accept that the Blood Hall is behind the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Let alone you, I don't want to think so too. However, there are some things that you have to plan for the best. Elder Hua. In that case, go and investigate. Given the abilities of your Demon Hall, how could you not find out? Qin Feiyang's brows furrowed. You don't say. We've already started investigating, but we really couldn't find anything. Because the people we arranged in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance are unable to get close to the Vice Alliance leader. Elder Hua shook his head. What about the Rogue Cultivator Alliances? Qin Feiyang asked. I heard that this person is in seclusion. I wonder where he is hiding? Old Hua said. Qin Feiyang mumbled. He muttered to himself for a while, and then said, then, what did you just say about us working together? It's to investigate what's hidden behind the Vice Alliance leader's killing of you. Where't, Teat? Alliance Capital. The Alliance Capital is the headquarters of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. It's located at the Azure Wave Snow Mountain. And the Azure Wave Snow Mountain is located in the westernmost part of the Eastern Continent. However, It's not easy to enter the Azure Wave Snow Mountain because only the people from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance can enter. Moreover, there's a barrier around the Azure Wave Snow Mountain. This barrier was personally set up by the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's leader. Without permission, even I have to use the Sovereign Divine Weapon to break in. Elder Hua said. The westernmost part of the Azure Wave Snow Mountain, Qin Feiyang muttered. In order to figure out this matter, he had to go to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's headquarters. Because if he didn't enter the Alliance capital, he wouldn't be able to get close to the vice leader. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead and said, if I had known, I wouldn't have killed Yi Yuan. It's useless for you to stay in Yi Yuan because he doesn't know the situation. Elder Hua shook his head. Yi Yuan doesn't know? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. After knowing that Yi Yuan came to Wine Sea City, we already thought of him, so we did an investigation on him. He doesn't know the reason why the vice leader killed you. Elder Hua said. He even hid it from his grandson, Yi Yuan. This matter is really not simple. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. That's why we have to investigate. Also, you have to be careful. Yi Yuan isn't a monster. The real monster is Yi Tian. Elder Hua warned. Yi Tian? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This Yi Tian is also the vice leader's grandson and Yi Yuan's elder brother. Ordinary people might not know his name, but he's very famous in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Palace. Even in the entire Eastern continent, his talent is top-notch. Because he has already comprehended 2 types of laws. Moreover, his cultivation has already reached the grand perfection imperishable stage. Elder Hua said. 2 types of laws. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, is he very powerful? Elder Hua was stunned. Comprehending 2 types of laws was not powerful? The ignorant were truly fearless. However, he didn't know that both Frenzy and Qin Feiyang had already grasped 3 types of laws. Anyway, you guys just have to be careful. Yi Yuan has been killed. As his elder brother, he definitely won't let this matter rest. Elder Hua said. Qin Feiyang asked, then to what extent has he comprehended the 2 types of laws? I heard that he has already comprehended the 2nd profundity of the fire law. As for the other type of law, he seems to have comprehended the 3rd profundity. Elder Hua said. Then he's not as good as senior brother Frenzy. Qin Feiyang smiled. But he has grasped 2 types of laws while Frenzy only has 1. How can they be compared? Elder Hua frowned. Can't compare, can't compare. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hands. That's right. Don't think that you have the right to be proud just because Frenzy has comprehended the 3rd profundity of the slaughter law. You have to know that this is the sky-cloud boundary. There are still people more outstanding than him. Elder Hua said. You're right. We must keep a low profile and be humble in the future. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly. All right then. You guys have a plan and see if you can investigate this matter. Also, Elder Hua took out a token and threw it to Qin Feiyang. What's this? Qin Feiyang caught it and looked down. There was a demon word on the front and a fire word on the back. This is this old man's identity medallion. In the Eastern continent, with this token, you can do whatever you want. Elder Hua said proudly. So powerful? Then what if I take this token to rob the demon tower? Qin Feiyang asked curiously. Rob the demon tower? Elder Hua was stunned. I'm just joking. Don't take it seriously. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Elder Hua rolled his eyes and said, let me tell you, don't give it to others like the token that Chu Yun gave you. How can I? I'll definitely treat it like a family heirloom. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he threw it into his interspatial ring. Elder Hua's mouth twitched. With such a casual attitude, how could he treat it like a family heirloom? Who was he kidding? Right. I suddenly remembered something. Can you help me? Qin Feiyang suddenly patted his head and looked at Elder Hua. What's the matter? Elder Hua was puzzled. Help this junior find a few people. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The mysterious youth, Li Feng, and the Grey Castle appeared. Elder Hua looked at them carefully and asked, who are they? A few old friends. They came to the sky cloud boundary before us, but I don't know where they are now. Qin Feiyang said. All right. As long as they're in the eastern continent and haven't changed their appearance, it won't be difficult to find them. Elder Hua nodded. And, Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and condensed a few more figures. They were the Fire Qilin, Uncle Beast God, Tan Wu, and the Infernal Divine Hound. Although the Fire Qilin and Uncle Beast God had been missing for many years, he still wanted to try. As for Tan Wu and the Infernal Divine Hound, although they went to the ancient world with them, he didn't know what happened to them. So he wanted to look for them. Are these your friends too? Elder Hua asked. Yes. But I'm not sure if they came to the sky cloud boundary. Let's look for them. Qin Feiyang said. All right. I'll let Chu Yun arrange it when I return to the demonic palace. Elder Hua nodded. Qin Feiyang asked curiously, what role does Chu Yun play in the demonic palace? Won't you know when you enter the demonic palace? Elder Hua laughed. Qin Feiyang was speechless. He cupped his hands and said, I won't see you off. Brat. Elder Hua shook his head and laughed. Then he turned and left. Also, stop following us. Qin Feiyang shouted. Do you think I have so much free time? Elder Hua turned around and rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang. Then, he quickly disappeared from Qin Feiyang's sight. What an interesting old man. Qin Feiyang smiled and returned to the Black Tortoise world. Qin Dage, father has something to talk to you about. Zhuo Xiaoxian's voice immediately sounded in the courtyard below. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He lowered his head and saw Zhuo Xiaoxian holding a transmission divine stone. Zhuo Tiancheng's figure was floating in the air. Swoosh! He took a step forward and landed beside Zhuo Xiaoxian. He said with a smile, Lord Zhuo, you didn't send us a transmission in such a hurry just because you care about us, right? Don't be so polite. If you don't mind, you can call me uncle. Zhuo Tiancheng shook his head and smiled. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. First of all, thank you for reminding me. I finally know the grievances Xiaoxian suffered at home all these years. Zhuo Tiancheng sighed. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a smile, in that case, uncle won't blame us for killing them? No. Because I wanted to clean up the family. You guys did it, but it saved me a lot of trouble. Zhuo Tiancheng shook his head. Then, is there anything else? Qin Feiyang asked. Zhuo Tiancheng said in a deep voice, I just received news that Yi Tian is coming to Wind Sea City. Yi Tian? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It sounded a little familiar. Wait a minute. Could it be that Yi Tian that Elder Hua mentioned before? This Yi Tian is the eldest grandson of the vice leader. When he heard that Yi Yuan was killed by you guys, he threatened to come and take your lives personally. This time, you guys must not accept his challenge. Just now, the city lord told me that this Yi Tian has not only reached the peak imperishable stage, but also comprehended 2 types of law powers. Yi Yuan can't be compared to him. Zhuo Tiancheng warned. I know all this. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. How do you know? Zhuo Tiancheng was stunned. Elder Hua said so. Qin Feiyang said. What? You guys really know Elder Hua? Zhuo Tiancheng was surprised. We've met a few times. Qin Feiyang smiled vaguely. Just a few times? Zhuo Tiansheng was stunned. He thought that Qin Feiyang and Madman were really from the Demon Hall. He has always wanted senior brother Madman and me to enter the Demon Hall, but we didn't agree. Qin Feiyang smiled. Zhuo Tiansheng looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. Elder Hua had personally invited them. What a great honor this was, but they actually didn't agree. What were these young people thinking? This was a typical case of not knowing how lucky they were. Chapter 3077. Father, I can vouch for that. Qin Dage and the others really have nothing to do with the Demon Palace. Zhuo Xiaoxian hurriedly said. I didn't say I don't believe you. Why are you in such a hurry? Zhuo Tiansheng was speechless. I'm just worried that you won't believe me. Zhuo Xiaoxian laughed dryly. Zhuo Tiansheng smiled helplessly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, what about the pills? Pills? Qin Feiyang was stunned. The pills with the 7 dragon-shaped pill auras. Where did you get them? Zhuo Tiansheng asked. Are the pills with 7 dragon-shaped pill auras rare? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Zhuo Tiansheng was speechless. 7 dragon-shaped pill auras were not rare? This kid must be sleepwalking. Qin Feiyang said, one of my companions refined them. What? One of your companions refined them? Zhuo Tiansheng was dumbfounded. He had thought of many possibilities. For example, Qin Feiyang and the others found a treasure by chance. There were pills with 7 dragon-shaped pill auras inside. Or, they bought them somewhere, or some alchemist gave them to them. The only thing he did not think was that they refined them themselves. He could not believe that Qin Feiyang and the others had the ability to do so. It was not just 1 or 2 dragon-shaped pill auras. There were 7 dragon-shaped pill auras. There were not many people in the entire eastern continent who could refine pills of this level. It was too shocking. What companion? Zhuo Tiansheng took a while to recover and asked. Father, he's a pill-refining maniac. His name is Dan Wangkai. He only knows how to refine pills and nothing else. Zhuo Xiaoxian spoke first. After being in the Black Tortoise world for so many years, she knew everyone very well. Dan Wangkai? That's his name? Zhuo Tiansheng was stunned. Yes. Zhuo Xiaoxian nodded. One is called Madman Mo, the other is called Dan Wangkai. What kind of names are these? They are indeed a bunch of weirdos. Zhuo Tiansheng shook his head speechlessly. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, all right, you guys be careful. Thank you for your concern. Qin Feiyang smiled. Xiaoxian, take good care of yourself. If little Madman bullies you, you must remember to tell father. Father will immediately go and settle the score with him. Zhuo Tiansheng said. I won't. Now, only I can bully him. He doesn't dare to bully me. Zhuo Xiaoxian grinned. Cough cough. Zhuo Tiansheng coughed dryly and hurriedly said, girls need to be gentle, okay? That depends on who you're dealing with. Zhuo Xiaoxian raised her little head, looking like a proud little princess. Zhuo Tiansheng smiled bitterly. He was also helpless towards this precious daughter of his. He could only hope that this little lunatic would treat her well. Immediately after, he put away the divine sound transmission stone and looked at the city lord and elder Yu standing in front of him. The two of them were there the whole time, but they didn't say anything. Now that Yi Yuan had been killed and Third Xing had left, they didn't have to hold back anymore. Zhuo Tiansheng said, you all heard it, right? They're not from the demonic palace. Although it's confirmed that they're not from the demonic palace, this result surprised me even more. The city lord sighed. That's right. Elder Hua's identity and status in the demonic palace is very important. He actually personally invited them to the demonic palace. What's so good about them? Elder Yu also had a look of disbelief. We know Elder Hua's character. It's definitely not their identity that can make him value them. Because no matter how high their identity is, they're not worth mentioning in front of Elder Hua. So I think it should be their potential and talent. Look, Madman is so young, but he has already comprehended the third profound of the law of slaughter. Such talent is one of the best in the eastern continent. Zhuo Tiansheng said. Then Qin Feiyang? What's so good about him? Elder Yu was suspicious. You don't say. Although I've met him so many times, I've never seen Qin Feiyang really fight. Usually, it's just small fights. The city lord whispered. In short, none of these kids can be underestimated. Especially the alchemy master beside them who can refine 7 dragon-shaped pill auras. Zhuo Tiansheng shook his head. The city lord and Elder Yu nodded. Alright. Let's not talk about them first. We don't know when the Deputy Alliance leader's eldest grandson will come. We have to be careful. From now on, no matter what the occasion is, we can't mention Qin Feiyang's private matters. In addition, we have to increase the bounty on them. We can't reveal any flaws. The city lord reminded. Understood. Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu nodded. But suddenly, Zhuo Tiansheng's expression became strange. What's wrong? The city lord and Elder Yu looked at him suspiciously. Did you notice that we seem to have betrayed the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? Zhuo Tiansheng frowned. Betrayed? The two were slightly stunned. A trace of a bitter smile appeared on their faces. What they were doing right now really felt like a betrayal. Sigh. It's all for Xiao Xian. Zhuo Tiansheng sighed. At the same time, all the major cities in the eastern continent were in an uproar. Did you hear? Yi Yuan was killed. What? He was actually killed? And the people who killed him are Frenzy and Qin Feiyang. These two are too bold. Yi Yuan is the Deputy Alliance leader's grandson. Aren't they afraid of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's revenge? Is there a need to ask? If they were afraid, would they still kill him? Not only did these two kill Yi Yuan, but they also snatched his heaven-defying divine art and heaven-defying divine artifact. You don't know. The heaven-defying divine art and heaven-defying divine artifact are both at the pinnacle level. Everyone was discussing. In just half a day, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy had become a household name in the eastern continent. What was even more unbelievable was that Elder Hua of the Devil Hall actually personally appeared to protect the two of them. For a moment, everyone was guessing the relationship between the two of them and Elder Hua. Some said that the two of them were disciples of the Devil Hall. Some said that the two of them might be Elder Hua's last disciple. Some even said that the two of them were Elder Hua's grandsons who had been hiding in the dark. In short, there were different opinions. Cloud Sea City. Tianyue Tower. Yun Xiang, the tower master of Tianyue Tower, and Yi Miao sat together. There was a teapot on the table, and there was a faint fragrance of tea. Yun Xiang took a sip of tea, looked at the tower master of Tianyue Tower, and said with a smile, "You didn't expect Qin Dage and Brother Mo's background to be so powerful, right? It's a little unexpected." The tower master of Tianyue Tower nodded. "It's more than unexpected. I didn't expect them to be related to the Devil Hall." Yun Xiang shook his head. "That's not entirely true." Yi Miao suddenly said. "What's wrong?" The two of them looked at her suspiciously. Yi Yuan's challenge letter has already shocked the eastern continent. Elder Hua might have gone to Wind Sea City to take a look out of curiosity. And Elder Hua might have appeared because Third Xing wants to deal with the Tower Master of the Devil Hall of Wind Sea City. Yi Miao said. No, no, no. What kind of person is Elder Hua? Even if Yi Yuan is the grandson of the Deputy Alliance Master, he won't be interested in him. Because in his eyes, they are just two juniors who are fooling around. So, there's only one possibility. Elder Hua is interested in Qin Feiyang and Yi Yuan. Yun Xiang waved his hand. It makes sense when you put it that way. Yi Miao nodded. Then, Brother Yun, do you think they killed Wang Hui back then because of us? The Tower Master of Tianyue Tower said. Because of us? Yun Xiang was stunned. Yes. We had no choice but to come to Cloud Sea City because we offended Wang Hui in Wind City. Could it be that they killed Wang Hui out of consideration for our safety? The Tower Master of Tianyue Tower said. This, Yun Xiang couldn't help but fall silent for a moment. I don't think they are cold and heartless people like you said. On the contrary, they are very warm to people. As for why they don't want to be with us, perhaps it's because they trust us. They can't trust us. The Tower Master of Tianyue Tower said. Perhaps. Yun Xiang smiled. Time passed. Half a month passed. Boom. That evening, a young man in white suddenly descended in the sky above Wind Sea City. He didn't conceal his aura at all, and it alarmed countless people. This is the City Lord, Zhuo Tiansheng, and Elder Yu hurriedly ran out of the City Lord's estate and looked at the man in white. The man in white also glanced at the three of them from afar, but he ignored them and said indifferently, Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo.I, Yi Tian, will be waiting for you here. After he finished speaking, he didn't enter the City Lord's estate. Instead, he sat cross-legged in the sky above the city and closed his eyes to cultivate. Although his voice wasn't very loud, it landed in the minds of everyone in Wind Sea City. He's the eldest grandson of the Deputy Alliance Master? He really came. Everyone looked at Yi Tian in surprise. Elder Yu glanced at Yi Tian, then looked at the City Lord and Zhuo Tiansheng and asked, should we go up and say hello? Forget it. From the looks of it, he doesn't want to be disturbed. The City Lord waved his hand. Very soon. Zhuo Tiansheng told Qin Feiyang the news of Yi Tian's arrival through Zhuo Shaoxian. To this, Qin Feiyang didn't have much of a reaction. To the people of the Eastern Continent, a consummate undead stage powerhouse who had mastered two kinds of power of law was absolutely a shocking and outstanding genius. But in the eyes of him and the madman, it wasn't worth paying attention to. It wasn't just now. In the ancient world, only the experts of the older generation could really make them pay attention. In other words, their eyes had never been placed on their peers. Half a month had passed outside, and 15,000 years had passed in the Black Tortoise realm. The madman had already mastered the battle's secret technique and continued to cultivate, comprehending the power of law. Qin Feiyang was also in seclusion. As for the magic sword slayer, he had also entered the land of origin to cultivate. Compared to the clamor outside, the Black Tortoise realm seemed very calm. Chapter 3078. Time passed day by day. Yi Tian was like a frozen rock, sitting cross-legged in the sky above the city. He did not open his eyes, nor did he say a word, nor did he commit any crimes in Wind Sea City like Yi Yuan. This point made the people of Wind Sea City somewhat surprised. They originally thought that Yi Tian was more arrogant, domineering, and unscrupulous than Yi Yuan. But they did not expect him to be so honest. At first, everyone was still a little afraid, but slowly, they seemed to get used to his existence. In the end, everyone began to ignore him. Occasionally, they would raise their heads to take a look. So this person was still there. On the same day that Yi Tian appeared in Wind Sea City. Swoosh! A figure descended in the void in front of the demon hall. This person held a snake-shaped walking stick in his hand and wore a long green robe. His face was old, and he gave off a sinister feeling. I was wondering who it was. So it's the Deputy Alliance Leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Deputy Alliance Leader, why have you personally come to my demon hall? Chu Yun appeared opposite the green-robed elder and smiled faintly. I don't dare to call you Lord. I'm only here to plead with your hall for one thing. The Deputy Alliance Leader said. You're not here to seek justice for Yi Yuan, are you? Chu Yun frowned. Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo are at fault for Yi Yuan's death. I have no reason to seek justice from the Demon Hall. The Deputy Alliance Leader shook his head. Then what is it for? Chu Yun was suspicious. I hope that the older generation will not interfere in the matters of the younger generation. The Deputy Alliance Leader said. You mean Yi Tian? Chu Yun was stunned. The Deputy Alliance Leader said, Miss Yun is intelligent and pure. I believe you know what I mean. Don't worry. As long as Yi Tian doesn't act recklessly in Wind Sea City like Yi Yuan, our demon hall won't interfere. Chu Yun chuckled. Hearing this, the Deputy Alliance Leader secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Actually, he was testing the waters. To see if Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo were related to the Demon Hall? Now that he looked at it, even if the two were related, it didn't seem to be deep. But I'm curious, why do you want to get rid of them so badly? According to my investigation, they aren't evil people, and they don't have any grudges with your Rogue Cultivator Alliance. To think that you, the Vice Alliance Leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, are so high and mighty. Why would you be so interested in them? Chu Yun looked at the Deputy Leader curiously. He killed Wang Hui. Isn't that a grudge? Wang Hui is a member of my Rogue Cultivator Alliance. If this old man doesn't do anything about it, how can I establish myself in the Eastern Continent in the future? That's all I have to say. I won't disturb you any further. Farewell. After the Vice Leader finished speaking, he turned around and activated an altar. He then left without looking back. Wang Hui, Chu Yun muttered. She looked at the Vice Alliance Leader's back and teased, is it really just because of Wang Hui? The Vice Alliance Master's eyes flashed slightly. He didn't reply and quickly disappeared without a trace. Interesting. Elder Hua suddenly appeared behind Chu Yun. Chu Yun was shocked. She quickly turned her head to look at Elder Hua and said angrily, Old man, why are you acting like a ghost? You scared me. Are you that timid? Elder Hua rolled his eyes. I'm a weak woman, okay? Do you really think I'm a man? Chu Yun was speechless. Elder Hua smiled embarrassedly and asked, have you found out anything about the person I asked you to help me investigate? It's only been half a month. How can it be so fast? Chu Yun glared at him angrily. Our Devil Tower is spread across all the cities in the Eastern Continent. Isn't it easy to find a few people? Can't you be more careful? After all, it's the person Qin Feiyang is looking for. Elder Hua frowned. Is Qin Feiyang that great? Chu Yun snorted coldly. You little girl. Let's not talk about anything else first. Qin Feiyang has a sovereign divine weapon. It's worth it for us to rope him in. Elder Hua was helpless. Rope him in? In my opinion, we should just kill them. The sovereign divine weapon will be the most valuable thing in our hands. Chu Yun said. Don't talk nonsense. Don't talk nonsense. Elder Hua quickly waved his hand and said in a deep voice, since they dared to go against the Blood Hall, they won't care about the Devil Hall. Moreover, the more I look at them, the more I feel that they're not simple. It's best not to make them an enemy if it's not necessary. Eh? Chu Yun looked at Elder Hua as if she had discovered a new continent. Why are you looking at me like that? Elder Hua was suspicious. I really didn't expect that there would be someone in this world that you're afraid of. Chu Yun said. It's not fear. It's attitude. When facing different people, you have to use different attitudes. Let's not talk about this first. Have you found out the origin of the 2 extra sovereign divine weapons in the Blood Hall? Elder Hua asked. No. The people we've planted in the Blood Hall have been investigating, but not many people seem to know about this. It seems that only Elder Hai and the Blood Hall Master know about it. Even the Blood Hall Grand Deacon doesn't know about it. Chu Yun rubbed her forehead, looking a little annoyed. This matter is getting more and more bizarre. It seems that it's necessary to ask Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo about it. Elder Hua whispered. We should have asked them a long time ago. Because from their appearance at that time, I know that they are mortal enemies with the 2 sovereign divine weapons. Chu Yun said. Alright, I'll go out for a walk. After saying that, Elder Hua turned around and left at lightning speed. Going out again? Chu Yun was stunned. What was wrong with this old man? He usually didn't go out, but during this period of time, he went out every day. Buzz. Suddenly, the divine sound transmission stone rang. Chu Yun took out the divine sound transmission stone, and a shadow appeared. Greetings, Miss Yun. It was a middle-aged man, about 40 years old. He restrained his aura and stood in a forest. Old Su, what's the matter? Chu Yun asked with a smile. Half a month ago, didn't you ask us to find a few people in the demon towers in each city? Now, I've found one of them. The middle-aged man said. Where? Chu Yun was slightly stunned and hurriedly asked. Rhinoceros Mountain Range. I'm right here. Do you want to come over and confirm it personally? The middle-aged man asked. Okay, I'll go over right away. Give me the coordinates. Chu Yun nodded. After the middle-aged man told Chu Yun the coordinates, Chu Yun immediately used the divine sound transmission stone to activate the altars. Soon, she silently arrived beside the middle-aged man. He's right in front. The middle-aged man pointed ahead and said. Let's go and take a look. After Chu Yun said that, the 2 of them quietly walked inside and soon saw a pool. The pool was about a few hundred feet long and extremely clear. A young man in white was lying on the water with a green foxtail grass in the corner of his mouth. There was a trace of cynicism in his eyes. He looked very comfortable with his eyes narrowed. Beside the young man, there was a 2-meter-long snow python lying on the ground. It also looked leisurely. It's really him. Chu Yun muttered. I can't see through his aura, so I didn't alert him. The middle-aged man transmitted his voice. You can't see through him? Chu Yun was stunned and quickly checked the young man's cultivation. Soon, she found that there seemed to be a mysterious veil on the young man's body. Even she couldn't see through it. I guess his cultivation might not be strong. He should have some kind of secret treasure that can hide his cultivation. The middle-aged man thought to himself. Chu Yun nodded. This person did not give her a sense of crisis. Suddenly, the young man yawned and asked slowly, Xiao Shui, am I that handsome? Young master, can you not call me Xiao Shui? It's not appropriate for a woman to call me that. The snow python at the side spoke with a helpless expression. That's what makes you cute. The young man chuckled. I don't want to be so cute. The snow python pursed its lips. I'm asking you a question. Am I very handsome? The young man spoke again. Yes, yes, yes. The snow python nodded. No wonder they have been hiding in the dark to peep at me. It turns out that they are coveting my beauty. The young man nodded in realization. Cough cough, the snow python immediately coughed dryly. Beauty? He was thinking too much. At the same time, hearing the conversation between the man and the beast, Chu Yun and the middle-aged man were shocked. They were actually noticed by this person? The two of them looked at each other and did not hide anymore. They walked out of the forest and stood by the pool. The young man opened his eyes and looked at Chu Yun. With a lazy look, he said, "Don't be too infatuated with me. I'm not interested in you." The corner of Chu Yun's mouth twitched. She was really shameless and said, "I'm not looking for you." "It's not you?" The young man was slightly stunned and said indifferently, "Then it should be Qin Feiyang." "How do you know?" Chu Yun was stunned. "In the sky cloud realm, who else would look for me besides him?" The young man shook his head. "Do you really know each other?" Chu Yun was suspicious. The young man looked up at the sky and said with a strange expression, "I'm his little brother. Of course I know him." "Who are he and Madman Mo?" Chu Yun was immediately interested. "Men," the young man said. Chu Yun immediately frowned. Wasn't this nonsense? Who didn't know that they were men? "I'm wondering, why are you asking about them? Don't tell me you like them." "I'm telling you, they're all taken now. Don't think about it," the young man said. A row of black lines appeared on Chu Yun's forehead. What was this? The young man held the green foxtail in his mouth and said indifferently, "All right, don't disturb my sleep. You can go. Just pretend that you didn't see me." "Sleep?" Chu Yun and the middle-aged man looked at each other. What kind of freak was this? With such a cultivation base, he actually liked to sleep so much. Chu Yun frowned and said, "Aren't you friends? Why don't you want to see them? Who said that friends have to meet? Besides, they cause a lot of trouble wherever they go. It's better for me to stay away from them so that I don't have to live with them all day." The young man shook his head. The two of them looked at the young man speechlessly. As friends, he was afraid of trouble? Were they still friends? Sigh. "It seems that you won't give up so easily. I'd better take the initiative and get lost." The young man stood up and stretched. Then, he took the snow python and took a step out. He instantly merged into the void and disappeared without a trace. The middle-aged man was stunned. This is the law of space and time, and it has already reached the realm of perfection. There's no need for any movements. With just a thought, it can merge into the void. A trace of surprise appeared on Chu Yun's face. She also mastered the law of space and time, so she could see the strength of the young man's law of space and time at a glance. These people from the lower realm were not simple. Chapter 3079. Another period of time passed. Outside the Zhanglan Snow Mountain, the sky was filled with snow and the ground was covered in snow. In an ice valley, the Vice Alliance leader held his walking stick with both hands and squinted his eyes as he stood quietly. Cold winds howled as the cold current pierced into his bones. However, the Vice Alliance leader was like a stubborn rock, not moving at all. Schwa. After an unknown period of time. Suddenly, a black shadow landed in the ice valley and stood opposite the Vice Alliance leader. This person was wrapped in a black robe and looked extremely mysterious. "He's here." The Vice Alliance leader opened his eyes and looked at the black-robed man. There was no fluctuation in his eyes. "Yes." The black-robed man nodded and asked, "How did the Demon Palace respond?" His voice was low and hoarse. The Vice Alliance leader said, "Chu Yun personally said that they will not interfere in the matters of the younger generation." "Very good. As long as they don't appear in the Wind Sea City, then there's a chance to kill Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo," the black-robed man said. "Even so, I still have some concerns. Although they said that they won't interfere, what if they hide in the dark? When you appear in the Wind Sea City, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to both of us. The Vice Alliance leader frowned. You don't have to think about this. We will make arrangements and will not let what happened last time happen again. The black-robed man said. What happened last time? When the Vice Alliance leader heard this, a hint of anger flashed across his eyes, and he said gloomily, last time, it was because I trusted you that Yuan, died tragically in their hands. There's nothing we can do about it. At that time, I was hiding in the Wind Sea City, preparing to kill them, but who would have thought that Elder Huo was also hiding in the Wind Sea City? But this time, we have really planned it out. You just have to ask Yi Tian to think of a way to force Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo out. The black-robed man said. It better be so. If anything happens to Tian, I will definitely not let it go. Also, after this, don't forget your promise to give me Qin Feiyang's sovereign divine weapon. The Vice Alliance leader said gloomily. Don't worry, we only want Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo. We are not interested in sovereign divine weapon. The black-robed man laughed hoarsely. The Vice Alliance master's eyes flashed with surprise as he frowned and said, if they aren't even interested in the sovereign divine weapon, could it be that Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo are more valuable than the sovereign divine weapon? That's not something you should be concerned about. The black-robed man's tone sank slightly. Then, he opened an altar and left. Looking at the back of the black-robed man, a strange light flashed in the depths of the Vice Alliance leader's eyes. Following closely, he took out the divine voice transmission stone. Wang. A short while later, a phantom appeared. It was Yi Tian, who was sitting in the sky above Wind Sea City. Tian, go to the spatial divine item. The vice leader said with a smile. All right. Yi Tian nodded and immediately disappeared. Where is he? When they realized that Yi Tian had disappeared in the blink of an eye, the eyes of the people in the city were filled with bewilderment. Inside the spatial divine item, the vice leader asked, did they appear? No. Yi Tian shook his head. The vice leader said, then think of a way to force them out. How? Yi Tian was puzzled. The vice leader said, use your brother's methods. Yi Tian raised his brows and shook his head, grandson doesn't agree. Then how long are you going to wait like this? Tian, grandfather knows that you are kind-hearted and don't want to hurt the innocent. But sometimes, we have to do this. This matter is really important to grandfather. You must do it. The vice leader looked at Yi Tian pleadingly. But, Yi Tian frowned. The vice leader's gaze turned cold as he shouted, there's no but. Within half a year, you must force them out. All right. Yi Tian nodded. When Yi Tian appeared again, looking at the people in the city below, his eyes revealed a trace of reluctance and hesitation. In the end, he once again sat cross-legged in the air and closed his eyes. 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, as the days passed, his heart gradually turned cold, and a bone-piercing cold current gradually spread out from his body. The people of Wind Sea City could clearly feel that the aura in the sky had become somewhat different. On this day 3 months later. Swoosh! Yi Tian suddenly opened his eyes and glanced at the city below, shouting, where is the city lord? Whoosh! 3 figures immediately rushed out of the city lord mansion and landed in front of Yi Tian. They bowed and said, young master, what orders do you have? They were the city lord, Zhuo Tiansheng, and Elder Yu. Immediately post a notice and tell Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo that from today onwards, I will kill a baby in Wind Sea City every day they don't appear. Yi Tian said. What? Kill a baby? The 3 of them trembled. Yi Tian looked at the three of them and asked, "Do you need me to say it again?" "No need, no need. But we are worried that you will anger the demon palace. The most important thing is that this will have a bad impact on our rogue cultivator alliance. After all, what your brother Yi Yuan did in Wind Sea City has already aroused public anger. If you continue to do this," the three of them were worried. "Then tell the people of Wind Sea City that this is not what I want to do. It was Qin Feiyang and the others who forced me to do this. If you don't want to implicate yourself, then hurry up and find Qin Feiyang and the others," Yi Tian said. "All right." The three of them nodded helplessly. Killing babies? This was even crueler than Yi Yuan. This matter could not be neglected. Otherwise, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance would definitely become a street rat in the Eastern continent in the future. Everyone would hate and shout at them. As expected. When this notice was released, it immediately caused a huge uproar in Wind Sea City. I didn't expect Yi Tian to be such a person. No. He's even more inhumane than Yi Yuan. He doesn't even let go of a newborn baby. Can you all stop complaining? Hurry up and find Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo, otherwise, who knows how many children will suffer. At that moment, the people of Wind Sea City moved out one after another, searching for Madman and Qin Feiyang everywhere. When some couples heard this news, they immediately wanted to move their children out. However, the 4 city gates were all sealed. Everyone else could leave, but only the babies could not leave Wind Sea City. What? Isn't this nonsense? Mo Lu. The white-haired old man sat at the desk. When he heard the report from the people below, he immediately flew into a rage. Right now, there are a lot of people outside the door, begging our Mo Lu to help. Do you think we should interfere or not? The guard standing opposite him asked. The white-haired old man pondered for a moment and said, "This matter is not something that I can decide. I have to ask Miss Yun for instructions. You can go out first. If there's anything, report to me at any time." "Yes." The guard respectfully replied, then turned around and left quickly. Rogue Cultivator Alliance. The white-haired old man's eyes flashed as he took out the sound transmission god stone. Buzz. Soon, Chu Yun's shadow appeared. Sun Zhengzhong greets Miss Chu Yun. The white-haired old man stood up and bowed. Is there any movement from Yi Tian? Chu Yun asked with a smile. How do you know? Sun Zhengzhong was stunned. For you to send me a message personally, apart from Yi Tian, what else can it be? Chu Yun shook her head. Miss, you really have great foresight. It's indeed because of Yi Tian. Sun Zhengzhong nodded and explained the situation briefly. What? These people are crazy. Aren't they afraid that they will really become the cancer of the Eastern continent and be despised by everyone? Chu Yun was instantly enraged. I think these people have long forgotten the original intention of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance when it was first established. Sun Zhengzhong sneered. Chu Yun pondered for a moment and waved her hand. Let's not interfere in this matter first. Not interfere? Sun Zhengzhong looked at Chu Yun in shock. It's not that we don't interfere, but we won't interfere for the time being. We'll let the Rogue Cultivator Alliance continue to cause trouble. When everyone really despises them, we'll step in. At that time, the image of the Demon Hall in the eyes of the world will immediately become the savior of the Eastern continent. At that time, we'll wipe out the Rogue Cultivator Alliance in one fell swoop. Chu Yun said. I see. Miss, you're really brilliant. Sun Zhengzhong cupped his hands and smiled. What's there to be brilliant about? To be honest, I don't want to sympathize with these people at all. That's because they brought all of this upon themselves. Think about it. Back then, the Demon Hall was the only ruler of the Eastern continent. They felt that it was not good for them that we occupied all the resources, so they wanted to support the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Now, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance has finally grown with their support. But how did the Rogue Cultivator Alliance repay them? So, at the end of the day, they were the ones who caused this situation today. Naturally, they have to bear the consequences. Chu Yun said calmly. That's true. Sun Zhengzhong nodded. If the Demon Hall had not been protecting the Eastern Continent, the Eastern Continent would have been devoured by the forces of the Western Continent, Northern Continent, and Southern Continent. As for resources, since the Demon Hall wanted to protect the Eastern Continent, they naturally had to work hard to strengthen themselves. Otherwise, how could they protect it? Could they do it by clapping their hands? Definitely not. To strengthen the Demon Hall, they naturally needed a lot of resources. But in the end, what did they get in exchange for their efforts? Not only were they not grateful, but they were also filled with hostility towards the Demon Hall. Who wouldn't feel aggrieved when encountering such a thing? After all, not everyone was a saint and selfless. Even if they didn't chase after the Demon Hall, they should at least show some respect. Just do as I say. Let these people open their eyes and see clearly who is the one who is really protecting the Eastern Continent. Chu Yun said. Understood. Sun Zhengzhong replied respectfully. That night. After midnight, Yi Tian really killed a child. Looking at this bloody scene, everyone immediately realized that Yi Tian was not joking with them. Hence, everyone was in danger and desperately searched for Qin Feiyang and Yi Tian. What should we do? City Lord Mansion. Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two sat in a secret room, all of them burning with anxiety. They really wanted to inform Qin Feiyang and Yi Tian, but they were worried about Qin Feiyang and Yi Tian's safety. After all, Yi Tian was not Yi Yuan. He was a true monster. No. We really can't let Yi Tian continue to mess around like this. Otherwise, not to mention the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, even the three of us won't have the face to establish ourselves in Wind Sea City in the future. The city lord suddenly raised his head and looked at Zhuo Tiansheng. Immediately send a message to Qin Feiyang and Yi Tian. All right. Hearing this, Zhuo Tiansheng gritted his teeth and took out the voice transmission god stone. Chapter 3080. After about 10 breaths, Zhuo Xiaoxian appeared. Xiaoxian, what are you doing? Why did you take so long to respond? Zhuo Tiansheng looked at her in confusion. Qin Dage was in the middle of a breakthrough, so he didn't notice the commotion from the divine voice stone. Zhuo Xiaoxian said. Breakthrough? Zhuo Tiansheng was slightly stunned. He said in surprise, has he reached the minor achievement imperishable stage? No. Zhuo Xiaoxian shook her head. Zhuo Xiaoxian shook her head and asked, are you looking for me or Qin Feiyang? I have something urgent to talk to Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo, Zhuo Tiansheng said. Then you'll have to wait for a while. Zhuo Xiaoxian said. It's okay. Zhuo Tiansheng waved his hand. The city lord looked at the scenery behind Zhuo Xiaoxian and said with a smile, Xiaoxian, can you show us the situation of the Black Tortoise world? Zhuo Xiaoxian was standing in the courtyard, facing the castle, so the scenery behind her appeared in their sight again. Behind her, in addition to the neatly arranged courtyards, there seemed to be a herb field. However, they could only see the tip of the iceberg. This. Zhuo Xiaoxian hesitated for a while, then shook her head and said, Father, no, I have to get Qin Dage's permission first. All right. The city lord looked helpless. This was the first time Zhuo Xiaoxian rejected his request. As expected, a married woman was like water that had been poured out. Most importantly, she was not married yet. If she was so loyal to Qin Feiyang and the others before she was married, then what would happen when she was married? After turning off the divine voice stone, Zhuo Xiaoxian raised her head and continued to look at the castle. Zhuo Xiaoxian was not the only one. Except for Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang, the others were also standing in their courtyards, looking at the castle nervously and expectantly. In the sky above the ancient castle, there were patches of purple divine lightning, like angry waves, rolling non-stop. The power of these thunderbolts was almost stronger than all the thunderbolts in the world. The people and beasts present all felt a fatal threat. Outside. It had been more than 40 days since the battle between Lunatic and Yi Yuan. However, in the Black Tortoise world, more than 40,000 years had passed. Qin Feiyang had already comprehended the second profundity of his 3 laws before the battle between the madman and Yi Yuan. But now, after more than 40,000 years of hard work, the third profundity of the law of lightning was finally about to take shape. Crack. Rumble. The sound of thunder reverberated in all directions. Purple divine thunder roared in the sky. It was like a heavenly tribulation descending upon the world, terrifying beyond compare. Suddenly, all the divine lightning in the sky transformed into huge lightning dragons that pounced in all directions. The void was shattering, and the devil's land was trembling. What is this brat doing? The little boy appeared with a frown. Wasn't it just comprehending the third profound? Was there a need to cause such a huge commotion? Actually, he did not know. Qin Feiyang was now in a very strange state. He had no idea what was happening outside. At this moment, his consciousness felt as if he was in a sea of lightning, with countless lightning dragons flying around him. Each of these lightning dragons had the power to destroy the world, but in front of him, they were as docile as little lambs. Even these lightning dragons carried him and soared in the sky. Gradually, these lightning dragons merged together and turned into a huge dragon that soared into the sky. At the same time, above the ancient castle, a huge lightning dragon also appeared. Purple divine light shrouded the world. Roar! All of a sudden, accompanied by a deafening dragon roar, the huge lightning dragon rushed into the sky, and a huge hole suddenly appeared. The next moment, accompanied by a loud laugh, Qin Feiyang rushed out of the ancient castle, his face full of excitement. Laughing, your sister. Little Wimp's face was dark, and the origin force emerged, quickly repairing the shattered sky and void. I'm happy. Qin Feiyang chuckled, his entire body in high spirits. So, you have already grasped the third profound? Little Wimp asked. Of course. The third profound, the wrath of thunder. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's not right. Didn't you first comprehend the law of light, then the law of karma, and finally the law of thunder? Why did you comprehend the third profound of the law of thunder first? Little Wimp looked at him suspiciously. Maybe it's because I have experienced too many heavenly tribulations, so it's easier for me to comprehend the law of thunder. Qin Feiyang said. That's true. But the law of karma is the most important. You have to be especially attentive. Little Wimp reminded. I know. But I found that the law of karma is harder to comprehend than the law of light and law of thunder. Qin Feiyang frowned. That's for sure. After all, the law of karma is one of the strongest laws in the world. Little Wimp said. Makes sense. Qin Feiyang mumbled. Also, I have thought about this 6-word divine formula carefully. I personally think that it should be formed by the law of profound. If you have time, study it more. Perhaps you can comprehend a new law of force from the 6-word divine formula. Little Wimp said. A new law of force. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. In order to step into the sovereign realm, the first necessary condition was to have 6 types of law of force. And now, he had only grasped 3 types, which was halfway. If he could really comprehend a new law of force from the six-word divine formula, it would be equivalent to him meeting the requirements to step into the sovereign realm. Alright, next time, be quieter. Little Wimp stared at Qin Feiyang and disappeared without a trace. Feiyang, Mermaid Princess immediately went up to him. Qin Feiyang grabbed Mermaid Princess's hand and asked, "How long has it been?" "More than 40,000 years. Mermaid Princess said. "Then it has only been 40 days outside." Qin Feiyang muttered and lowered his head to look at the ancient castle. "I wonder how senior brother Frenzy's progress is." "I guess it will be soon," Mermaid Princess said. Both of them were in seclusion at the same time, but Frenzy spent more time to comprehend the battle's secret technique. Qin Feiyang said, "Anyway, I have to work harder than senior brother Frenzy." "Why?" Mermaid Princess was suspicious. "Because senior brother Frenzy's law of force is above mine. If I don't work hard, I won't be able to surpass him," Qin Feiyang said. Back then, before he comprehended the law of force, Frenzy's law of slaughter had already entered the second stage. It could also be said that before he was born, Frenzy had already comprehended the law of slaughter. This was Frenzy's advantage. And now, although he had already comprehended the third profound of the law of thunder, Frenzy had also comprehended the third profound of the law of slaughter. And it wouldn't be long before he comprehended the third profound of another law of force. So, in terms of law of force, Frenzy was still above him. Alright, don't be dissatisfied. Look at the sky cloud realm. How many can comprehend the third profound of the undying realm? Mermaid Princess was speechless. We can't compare with ordinary people. If we want to compare, we have to compare with geniuses. For example, a monster like senior brother Frenzy. Qin Feiyang laughed. It turns out that senior brother Frenzy has always been a monster in your eyes. Mermaid Princess covered her mouth and laughed. Isn't that so? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Qin Dage, you don't know, but in little Frenzy's eyes, you are also a monster. Zhuo Xiaoxian walked over at this time and laughed. Is that so? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes, he has told me more than once that being with you is very stressful, and that I have to work hard at all times. Otherwise, if I'm not careful, I will be surpassed by you. Zhuo Xiaoxian said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Now that you mention it, I am confident again. You two are friends who have gone through life and death together, but you are still secretly competing." Mermaid Princess was speechless. You don't understand. You can only improve faster if you have a strong opponent. Qin Feiyang smiled. Zhuo Xiaoxian said, "By the way, Qin Dage, my father and the others seem to be looking for you." Qin Feiyang was startled and asked suspiciously, "What is it?" "I don't know." Zhuo Xiaoxian shook her head. Qin Feiyang said, "Then send them a message. I will ask." Okay. Zhuo Xiaoxian nodded and took out the voice transmission stone. Buzz. Soon, the figures of Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two appeared. "Greetings, uncles and senior you." Qin Feiyang bowed. Zhuo Tiansheng sized up Qin Feiyang's cultivation and frowned. "It's not a breakthrough." "What did you break through?" "It's nothing." "Why are you looking for me?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "You are being mysterious. There is indeed something very troublesome, and I need you to do it." Zhuo Tiansheng said in a deep voice. "You need us to do it?" Qin Feiyang was startled. "Yes." Zhuo Tiansheng nodded and briefly explained Yi Tian's situation. "What?" They heard about it. Zhuo Xiaoxian and the Mermaid Princess could not help but turn pale. Qin Feiyang also frowned slightly and asked, "What about the Demon Palace? Why didn't they stop it?" "The Demon Palace," Zhuo Tiansheng pondered for a while and shook his head. Although we have not talked to the demon palace directly, we can't guess what they are thinking. Thinking? Qin Feiyang was startled. The demon palace is very unhappy with the rogue cultivator alliance and even wants to get rid of us. Therefore, they can't wait for us to do more evil things. Zhuo Tiansheng sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang smiled. The more evil things the rogue cultivator alliance did, the more people would be unhappy with them. In this way, the demon palace would be justified to deal with the rogue cultivator alliance. This was because the rogue cultivator alliance rose because of the support of the people. Therefore, before dealing with the rogue cultivator alliance, the demon palace had to find a suitable reason. And now, first, it was Yi Yuan, and now it was Yi Tian. Those who originally supported the rogue cultivator alliance had gradually changed their views. When the rogue cultivator alliance completely lost the hearts of the people, that would be the time for the demon palace to eliminate the rogue cultivator alliance. Even we understand this logic. Why does the deputy alliance leader still want to do this? Isn't this bringing the rogue cultivator alliance to a dead end? Qin Feiyang frowned. I'm not sure. Zhuo Tiansheng shook his head. What about the alliance leader of the rogue cultivator alliance? Are we just going to let the deputy alliance leader continue to do whatever he wants? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. We are also trying to contact the alliance leader, but we can't reach him. Zhuo Tiansheng sighed. The city lord looked at Qin Feiyang and sighed. Only you and little lunatic can do this. Let me think about it. With that, Qin Feiyang asked Zhuo Xiaoxian to turn off the voice transmission stone. Chapter 3081. Feiyang, what's there to think about? He won't even let a child go. He's worse than a beast. The mermaid princess said angrily. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, I'm thinking that this matter shouldn't be that simple. What do you mean? The mermaid princess and Zhuo Xiaoxian looked at him suspiciously. You heard it just now. Yi Tian didn't hurt the people of Wind Sea City at first. This means that he's still different from Yi Yuan. But, why would he suddenly do such a thing? Qin Feiyang said. Isn't it obvious? He's forcing you and senior brother Feng Zi to go out. The mermaid princess said. But isn't this too deliberate? Qin Feiyang frowned. Deliberate? The two girls looked at each other, and the suspicion in their eyes grew stronger. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, in short, I just feel that this matter isn't simple. Then are we really not going to do anything? He has already killed a child in the wee hours of the morning. This is definitely not a joke. Zhuo Xiaoxian was quite anxious. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhuo Xiaoxian, then looked at the mermaid princess and asked, do you really want me to step in? The two girls hesitated again. If it was really as Qin Feiyang said and this matter was not simple, then wouldn't Qin Feiyang be in danger when he went out? Sigh. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He smiled and said, all right, I'm a kind-hearted person. I'll go and meet him and see what he wants to do. Then be careful. The mermaid princess reminded. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and then disappeared. Wind Sea City. Everyone was going crazy from anxiety. Because no matter how they looked, they couldn't find Qin Feiyang and Zhuo Xiaoxian. It's getting late. If we don't find them, another innocent child will be killed. What do you think we should do? Outside the city. Tens of thousands of people gathered together, looking at the gradually darkening sky, their faces full of worry. Don't tell me they didn't receive any news about such a big thing? Actually, it's fine if I didn't receive the news. Who knows, it might appear again. But if they receive the news, they will definitely hide. After all, Yi Tian is not Yi Yuan. They will definitely be afraid. These people were basically parents. They were worried that their children would be harmed. Look! Suddenly, one of the middle-aged men pointed to the side of the mountain. Everyone raised their heads to look, and a trace of bewilderment crept onto their faces. Is it him? Everyone rubbed their eyes in disbelief. When they looked over again, they saw a tall young man in white walking over in the air. It's him. It's really him. Qin Feiyang. Immediately, the people present hurriedly flew toward Qin Feiyang as if they had seen their savior. Ugh! Qin Feiyang looked at this scene with a rather stunned expression. Since when was he so popular? Brother Qin, you're finally here. Please, you must help us. It's not easy for us to give birth to a child. A group of people directly knelt in the void, crying. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and hurriedly said, Everyone, don't be like this. Get up quickly. If you don't promise us, we won't get up. A woman in her 20s said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I'm here this time for Yi Tian. Really? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Thank you. Brother, we will never forget this kindness. Everyone was grateful. It's okay. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Brother Qin, you must kill Yi Tian. Suddenly, another young man in his 20s ran to Qin Feiyang and shouted with a face full of resentment. Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. The young man said, I'm the father of the child who was killed last night. Get up quickly. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat and hurriedly helped the young man up. Please, as long as you kill him, I'll be your slave in the future. The young man said. This. I can't guarantee it. I can only say that I'll do my best. Qin Feiyang sighed. After all, Yi Tian was a powerhouse at the peak of the undead stage. And he knew nothing about Yi Tian. How could it be so easy to kill him? All right, don't block Brother Qin's way. A middle-aged man shouted. Hearing this, everyone retreated to the side. Therefore, under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, Qin Feiyang stepped into the sky above the city step by step. Even the city guards didn't stop him. They even looked at Qin Feiyang with some admiration in their eyes. For the sake of those innocent children, knowing that Yi Tian was a monster, he still came to fight. Not to mention anything else, his courage and responsibility were enough to be admired. Is he here? At the same time, the city lord's mansion. The city lord, Zhuo Tiansheng, and Elder Yu looked at a guard below. He's here. The guard nodded. The three immediately got up, rushed out of the city lord's mansion, and looked up at the sky. This kid is really a newborn calf that is not afraid of tigers. Demon Tower. Sun Zhengzhong stood in front of the window, looking up at Qin Feiyang helplessly. It seemed that Miss Chu Yun's wish was going to fall through. Because once Qin Feiyang appeared, Yi Tian would definitely not do evil again. However, after the two incidents of Yi Yuan and Yi Tian, he believed that the people of the Eastern continent would definitely have a different view of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance than before. In other words, what the two had done had planted a seed of disgust in people's hearts. This seed would sooner or later sprout and grow stronger. Let's talk about this later. Now, let's see what kind of means Qin Feiyang had. Would he be like a lunatic and amaze the world with a single brilliant feat? Sun Zhengzhong's face was full of expectation. At the same time, Yi Tian, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky above the city, slowly opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang. So calm? The attitude that Qin Feiyang displayed made him feel rather astonished. You're Yi Tian? Qin Feiyang walked to the opposite side of Yi Tian and smiled faintly. Yes. I am. Yi Tian stood up, and his eyes were incomparably calm. Qin Feiyang was also surprised by this person's calmness, and lack of killing intent. He said, "I can see that you're different from your brother, but why did you do such a hateful thing? If I didn't do this, would you have appeared?" Yi Tian said faintly. "In order to force me out, you didn't hesitate to bear the infamy. Is it worth it?" Qin Feiyang sighed. "I don't know." Yi Tian shook his head. Qin Feiyang frowned slightly, and seemed to find a trace of helplessness between Yi Tian's brows. Could it be that the deputy leader forced him to do this? Yi Tian did not continue this topic and asked, "Where's Madman Mo?" "He won't appear for the time being," Qin Feiyang said. Yi Tian was slightly taken aback and shook his head. "If you're alone, you're not my opponent. Just come with me." "Where to?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "The Alliance capital. To accompany my brother in death." Yi Tian said very lightly, but there was a domineering aura in his words that could not be ignored. "Well, it seems that this battle can't be avoided." Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly. "You really want to fight with me?" Yi Tian was stunned. One was at the initial stage of the invincible realm, the other was at the peak of the invincible realm. There was a difference of 4 small realms. He was very puzzled. Where did this person's courage come from? "Let's not be long-winded, come on," Qin Feiyang said, and his aura suddenly rolled out. Yi Tian looked at Qin Feiyang, and his aura slowly emerged. Boom! But in the end, his aura also stopped at the initial stage of the invincible realm. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Since you want to fight, then let's be fair." After Yi Tian said that, he immediately took a step forward, and with an extremely shocking speed, he instantly arrived in front of Qin Feiyang. "Fair," Qin Feiyang murmured. He did not expect Yi Tian to be such a person. He could be considered a gentleman. Boom! Qin Feiyang raised his arm and slapped at Yi Tian. The moment the fist and the palm met, a destructive wave suddenly roared out with the two as the center. The wind whistled, and their clothes and hair were rustling in the wind. Invisible forces crazily collided. Boom! In the end, both of their bodies shook and retreated at the same time, and their faces were somewhat pale. "Your physical body and strength," Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. This person's physical body and strength had actually reached the supreme realm. "Your physical body and strength are not bad," Yi Tian said. Boom! The two of them took a step forward and charged at each other again. Their fists constantly collided, and the originally dim night sky became even darker. "I thought you would be vulnerable, but the result seems to be beyond my expectations." Yi Tian smiled. Likewise. Qin Feiyang's eyes were burning with a trace of battle intent. Bang! 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 The two of them were like lightning, exchanging blows again and again. In a dozen breaths, the two of them had collided hundreds of times. Their fists were broken, and drops of blood floated down. They seemed to be evenly matched. Zhuo Tianxing whispered. "This is just a warm-up, the real battle has not started yet," the city lord said. Boom! About a few hundred minutes later, the two of them punched each other, and the terrifying force collided with each other. Puff! At that moment, both of them spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated continuously. The warm-up should be enough. Qin Feiyang's battle intent was already boiling. Boom! The divine dragon seal appeared out of nowhere, and like a huge mountain, it shook the sky and pressed down on Yi Tian. Yi Tian looked at the divine dragon seal, and with the emergence of divine power, a giant dragon roared out, carrying a monstrous aura, and pounced on the divine dragon seal. The two great divine arts met, and the night sky suddenly fell into a dead silence. But the next moment, accompanied by an earth-shattering noise, the two great divine arts exploded in the void, and a destructive wave suddenly rolled out. The void above the entire city was distorted as if it was about to shatter. The enchantment set up by the city lord was also revealed under the impact of the wave. Fortunately, the two of them were outside the enchantment, otherwise Wind Sea City would definitely be destroyed. But before the storm subsided, accompanied by a dragon roar, giant dragons continued to rush into the sky, hovering above Yi Tian's head, exuding a monstrous dragon aura. Kill! As Yi Tian waved his hand, the sky full of giant dragons suddenly roared and pounced on Qin Feiyang. Each giant dragon was thousands of feet long, exuding an unparalleled aura. The people in the city below were unable to see the night sky, and could only see the densely packed giant dragons, seemingly endless. Chapter 3082. Supreme Level Divine Art. Everyone looked at this scene, their eyes full of shock. Although in the Sky Cloud realm, supreme level divine arts are very common, one must know that things of the same level are divided into strong and weak. And the supreme level divine art that Yi Tian used at this moment is undoubtedly the strongest. In other words, unless it's a heaven-defying divine art, no one can shake it. Clang! However, just when everyone thought that Qin Feiyang might be at a disadvantage, an ear-piercing sword cry sounded. Heaven-defying divine artifact? When everyone heard this sword cry, their first reaction was that Qin Feiyang used a heaven-defying divine artifact. That was because everyone knew that not only did Qin Feiyang possess a pinnacle-level heaven-defying divine artifact, he even snatched a pinnacle-level heaven-defying divine artifact from Yi Yuan. But when they looked, they found that it wasn't the golden scale sword or the magic sword, but a flaming sword shadow. Each sword shadow exuded a sharp aura that could tear the sky and split the earth. Kill! As Qin Feiyang pointed his finger, the sword shadows swept out and attacked the giant dragon. This, everyone was surprised. It's actually the strongest supreme-level divine art. It seems that this person has other means besides the heaven-defying divine artifact. Clang! The sword shadow cut through the sky, the blazing flame illuminated half the sky, and slashed at the giant dragon. The sword was crying, and the dragon was howling. In just a few breaths, the two were shattered and disintegrated in the void, once again showing a situation of equal strength. Not bad. Yi Tian nodded. Same to you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, the 99 sword shadows reappeared and merged together, turning into a giant sword. The void was actually cracking. Although it wasn't very obvious, it was real. One must know. The void of the Sky Cloud realm is tougher than the ancient castle. Only a heaven-defying divine artifact and a heaven-defying divine art can shatter the void. And this sword shadow can actually shatter the void a little. What does this mean? It means that the power of the Guiyuan sword technique is infinitely close to a heaven-defying divine art. This is the strongest power of a supreme-level divine art. People muttered. But at this moment, Yi Tian waved his hand, and a series of dragon roars could be heard. One after another, huge dragons appeared and fused together to form a huge divine dragon. Rumble. The next moment, the divine dragon and the sword shadow collided fiercely. The sky changed color on the spot, and the cracks in the void became more and more obvious. Strong. Everyone's eyes trembled. Putting aside the heaven-defying divine artifact, heaven-defying divine technique, and the power of law, the strength of the two of them was completely enough to sweep across those in the same realm. It seems that I have really underestimated you. Yi Tian frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang as he asked. It's not too late to realize that. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. You are a very confident person, but I will ruthlessly destroy your confidence step by step. Yi Tian raised his arm and pointed his index finger in the air. A beam of golden divine light immediately gushed out. Heaven and earth instantly turned into a sea of gold. A terrifying destructive aura spread out in all directions. This is yet another terrifying Supreme Being level killing technique. After all, he is the eldest grandson of the Vice Alliance leader. How many Supreme Being level divine techniques would he have? Not to mention Supreme Being level divine techniques, he probably even has a heaven-defying divine artifact. Everyone discussed. Rumble. But at the same time, Qin Feiyang also raised his arm. An invisible force emerged and blasted toward the golden divine light like a turbulent torrent. Qin Feiyang also had a lot of Supreme Being level divine techniques. For example, the returning ruins art had now reached the peak of Supreme Being level. The two killing techniques collided, and a dazzling divine light burst out. Both of their bodies trembled slightly, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corners of their mouths. But this kind of injury was nothing to people with strong physical bodies like them. Whoosh! Whoosh! Qin Feiyang's eyes were sharp. As his divine power surged, the 3 forms of the Dragon God technique and the 4 forms of the Fire Phoenix technique instantly appeared. All kinds of super killing techniques were aimed at Yi Tian from all directions. But Yi Tian also evolved all kinds of super killing techniques to neutralize them one by one. At this time, the sky was full of all kinds of divine techniques colliding. The destructive fluctuations were like a rolling torrent, roaring in all directions. Whoosh! Suddenly, a streak of fiery red divine light shot out from Yi Tian's fingertips like an arrow, and actually shattered all the divine techniques like crushing dead leaves, instantly arriving in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted, and he hurriedly dodged to the side. However, that streak of divine light still pierced through his shoulder, leaving behind a fist-sized bloody hole with blood gushing out. This seems to be the power of laws. Everyone looked at Yi Tian in shock. Yi Tian looked at Qin Feiyang opposite and shook his head as he said, relying on divine techniques alone can't determine the outcome. So bring out your full strength. Following his voice landing, fire law surged out, turning into numerous sharp blades, shattering the vast sky for millions of miles, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they rushed toward Qin Feiyang. The power of laws already reached the heaven-defying level, so it could already shatter the void. Qin Feiyang's figure flickered continuously, dodging the numerous sharp blades that rushed over, his appearance looking somewhat wretched. Not good. Yi Tian has mastered the power of laws. Qin Feiyang is probably not his opponent. Zhuo Tiansheng transmitted his voice. Yeah. To fight against the power of laws, either he has to have a heaven-defying divine artifact and divine technique, or he has also mastered the power of laws. But until now, we still don't know whether he has comprehended the power of laws or not. Elder Ute secretly said, hiding a trace of worry in his eyes. Puff! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang, who couldn't dodge in time, was pierced through the chest by 2 sharp blades formed by the power of laws, and blood flowed out. If you haven't comprehended the power of laws, then you will definitely lose this battle. Yi Tian looked at Qin Feiyang indifferently. The fire law seemed to be endless, constantly turning into sharp blades that rushed toward Qin Feiyang. Although Qin Feiyang had a heaven-defying divine artifact, he wasn't worried at all. Because as the eldest grandson of the Deputy Alliance leader, he didn't lack any heaven-defying divine artifacts at all. Qin Feiyang didn't answer, his eyes flickering. In fact, he was considering whether to activate the power of laws or not. There was a good saying, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Now that madman had already displayed extraordinary talent, if he stood out again, it might not be a good thing. Clang! He hesitated again and again. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the golden scale sword appeared. With a slash of the sword, the sharpness was earth-shattering, instantly shattering all the laws of fire. Yes. He still planned to keep a low profile. He took out a heaven-defying divine artifact just like that? It seems that he hasn't comprehended the power of laws. If he hasn't comprehended the power of laws, then compared to Madman Mo, he's a little far behind. Everyone shook their heads, seemingly disappointed. Sigh. Yi Tian couldn't help but sigh, shaking his head. I thought you were an opponent, but I didn't expect that you haven't even comprehended the power of laws. Thank you for your high opinion, but whether I have comprehended the power of laws or not isn't that important right now. As long as I win this battle, it's fine. Qin Feiyang didn't care at all. Holding the golden scale sword, he took a step forward, and the sharpness instantly tore through the sky. Clang! But also at the same time. Yi Tian raised his hand, and a 3-foot-long sword appeared, as if it was made of gold, flickering with dazzling sword light. This was also a peak-level heaven-defying divine artifact. The two heaven-defying divine artifacts collided, and the terrifying sharpness tore apart the sky. Sigh. Yi Tian also has a peak-level heaven-defying divine artifact, as well as the power of laws, and his cultivation is even at the great perfection imperishable stage. On the other hand, Qin Feiyang has no advantage except for the heaven-defying divine artifact. We shouldn't have counted on him. If the person who appeared this time was Madman Mo, how good would that be? Everyone shook their heads. Qin Feiyang didn't know what everyone was thinking. Because facing Yi Tian, he didn't have time to care about these things. Yi Tian's strength was much more terrifying than he imagined, and if he didn't show mercy, he would die in this person's hands. Therefore, he had to deal with it with all his strength. The two heaven-defying divine artifacts were evenly matched, but Qin Feiyang seemed to be in an extremely sorry state under the suppression of Yi Tian's power of laws. The injuries on his body continued to worsen. A trace of disdain gradually appeared on Yi Tian's face. He was a little depressed. Why waste time on this kind of person? Suddenly, killing intent flashed in his eyes. This was the first time he showed killing intent. This also proved that he had lost his patience and didn't want to continue playing this kind of game. The next moment, the law of fire surged out and turned into a 3-foot-long battle blade, carrying a world-destroying sharpness, and slashed towards Qin Feiyang. Not good. This is the first profound, the blade of fire. Zhuo Tiancheng's pupils contracted. It's indeed not good. But I really don't believe that Qin Feiyang only has this much ability. The city lord secretly thought. While the two were talking, the blade of fire fiercely slashed on Qin Feiyang's body, but a loud clang sounded. What? The two looked in surprise and found that a set of blood-red armor had appeared on Qin Feiyang's body at some point. What was more terrifying was that the blood-red armor didn't have any damage in the face of such a fierce bombardment. Is this also a heaven-defying divine artifact? Everyone was shocked. Yi Tian also looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. If you look down on me without the law of fire, then I'll really laugh at your naivety. Qin Feiyang looked at Yi Tian and said indifferently. Is that so? Yi Tian raised his arm and pointed in the air. The law of fire suddenly turned into a raging wave and rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shook his head and raised his hand to slap the air. What is he doing? That's the law of fire. No matter how strong his body is, it's impossible to block it. Isn't he courting death? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. If it weren't for the fact that Qin Feiyang fought with Yi Tian because of them, they would definitely call him an idiot on the spot. Zhuo Tiancheng and the other two were even more anxious. Could it be that this kid had run out of tricks and could only fight with Yi Tian? No one was optimistic about Qin Feiyang's chances. The same went for Yi Tian. The law of fire instantly arrived. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was about to be drowned by the law of fire, there were even some people who closed their eyes, unable to bear to watch the bloody scene. And at this moment, at the center of Qin Feiyang's palm, a dazzling golden light suddenly surged out. At the center of the palm that was enveloped by the golden light, the word "return" appeared. Boom! In the next moment, the golden light was like a flood that opened a dam, blasting towards the law of fire. Accompanied by a loud bang, under everyone's incredulous gaze, the law of fire was blocked by the golden light. Chapter 3083. How is this possible? There was a trace of shock in Yi Tian's eyes. What is this thing that can actually block the power of law? Give me a taste of my own medicine. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang shouted in a low voice. The golden light was dazzling, and an even more shocking scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The power of law actually revolved in the air and surged towards Yi Tian like a surging torrent. This is a magic trick. Everyone was stunned to the extreme. However, in an instant, Yi Tian was drowned in the power of law. This was also something he never expected and was completely unprepared. The power of law exuded a terrifying aura, and Yi Tian was instantly covered in wounds and dripping with blood. However, he was after all at the great perfection imperishable stage, so he quickly reacted and hurriedly retreated. Cold sweat trickled down his spine. Fortunately, his reaction was fast enough, otherwise, he would definitely end up with his body crushed. The power of law is not omnipotent. Qin Feiyang shook his head and took a step forward. The battle armor formed by the battle secret art flashed with dazzling divine light as he punched at Yi Tian. Whether it is omnipotent or not depends on whether your comprehension of the power of law is deep enough. Yi Tian snorted coldly and slapped out with his palm. The fist and palm met in an instant, and Yi Tian was blasted away on the spot, blood gushing out. The battle secret art could block 90% of the attack power. In other words, now Qin Feiyang only needed to bear 10% of the damage, but Yi Tian was different. He had to bear Qin Feiyang's full-strength punch. The gap between the two was pulled apart in an instant. Bang bang bang. Qin Feiyang was like a god of war, and the power of his body poured out like a tide. In just a few breaths, Yi Tian was seriously injured, and his face was pale. Show me what you've got. Qin Feiyang, who had the battle secret art to protect his body, did not leave the slightest scar on his body. Finally, a little interesting. Yi Tian got up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and the law of fire emerged like a waterfall. The first profound blade of fire was activated again. Clang! The blade of fire carried a monstrous sharpness as it charged towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang struck out with his palm. Golden light burst out, and the word "return" appeared on his palm. Rumble! In an instant, the golden light collided with the blade of fire. With a deafening explosion, the blade of fire shattered. But at the same time, the golden light also disintegrated. Qin Feiyang's body shook, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. A trace of bewilderment crept into his eyes. What's going on? It actually didn't bounce back. In this situation, they were completely evenly matched. So it's just a low-level heaven-defying technique. Yi Tian shook his head. He's also a subordinate, Qin Feiyang murmured. Was this the true level of the six-word divine formula? He had always thought that the six-word divine formula was very powerful. It should at least be at the pinnacle level, or even the legendary level. But he didn't expect it to be a low-level heaven-defying divine art. Clang! Just as he was in a daze, the blade of fire appeared again and struck him like a bolt of lightning. By the time he regained his senses, it was already too late to dodge. Crack. The battle armor formed by the battle formula also cracked on the spot. His whole body was also sent flying, blood splattering all over his body. This is just a low-level heaven-defying artifact, Yi Tian said. Qin Feiyang looked at the cracked battle armor, and for a moment, he really couldn't accept it. Suddenly, he raised his head to look at Yi Tian, murderous intent surging from his palm, and a blood-colored long sword appeared. He wanted to see how powerful the blood-colored long sword was. There's another heaven-defying artifact? Yi Tian was surprised. The law of fire emerged, and the blade of fire attacked Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang slashed with his sword. Clang! The two divine weapons collided with a loud bang. Immediately after, under Qin Feiyang's shocked gaze, the blade of fire and the blood-colored long sword were destroyed together. Obviously, their strength was still equal. It's also a subordinate. Qin Feiyang looked at the shattered blood-colored long sword in his hand. This fact was a big blow to him. It seems that before, you still didn't know the true level of your heaven-defying techniques. Just now, you relied on these heaven-defying techniques to suppress me because I didn't activate the profound divine ability. The lethality of the law of fire is indeed not comparable to the heaven-defying techniques. But the profound divine ability is different. The first profound divine ability is equivalent to a low-level heaven-defying technique, Yi Tian said faintly. When Qin Feiyang heard this, it was as if he was suddenly enlightened. That's right. After the golden scale sword shattered the blade of fire, Yi Tian didn't activate the profound divine ability again, and only used the pure law of fire. There was an essential difference between the law of fire and the profound divine ability. The law of fire itself was just a kind of energy, while the profound divine ability was a move evolved from the law of fire. In fact, in short, it was the same principle as the divine power and the divine ability. The divine power itself wasn't strong, but the divine ability transformed from the divine power was strong. It was equivalent to saying that the law of fire was equivalent to the divine power, and the profound divine ability was equivalent to the divine ability. However, he still couldn't accept that the six-word divine art was only a low-level heaven-defying technique. In the past, whether it was in the Great Qin Empire or the ancient world, the six-word divine art had always been invincible. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura emerged. Qin Feiyang raised his head to look and saw a sea of lightning appear above Yi Tian's head. It was formed by the law of fire. Bolts of fire and lightning roared like giant pythons, emitting a monstrous aura. This is the second profound, fire god's fury. The city lord murmured. Zhuo Tiancheng's eyelids twitched, and he looked at Qin Feiyang and muttered, "Is this really all you can do? How are you going to break it this time?" Yi Tian opened his mouth, and as his voice fell, the sky full of fire and lightning suddenly fell, blasting toward Qin Feiyang. Clang! Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the blood-red sword appeared again, directly attacking the fire and lightning. He still couldn't believe it. Gotcha! However, in the face of the second profound, the blood-red sword formed by the kill-word divine art had no power to resist and instantly shattered. It's really just a lower grade. The second profound was equivalent to a mid-grade heaven-defying divine art. The blood-red sword couldn't withstand a single blow from the second profound. If it wasn't a lower-grade heaven-defying divine art, then what was it? But why was it like this? The six-word divine art that had always been successful seemed so weak when it came to the sky cloud realm. Wait! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that it wasn't the six-word divine art that had always been successful, but the slaughter domain. That's right. It was the slaughter domain. In the past, whether it was facing the dragons or the various heaven-defying artifacts, it was the slaughter domain that solved it. In other words, The slaughter domain was the strongest, not the 6-word divine art. There was one more point. That was the madman's heaven-defying divine art. Qin Feiyang and the madman had sparred before. The 6-word divine art and the madman's heaven-defying divine art were similar in strength. Not long ago, the battle between the madman and Yi Yuan had already proved that the madman's heaven-defying divine art was a lower grade. Since the madman's heaven-defying divine art was a lower grade, then the 6-word divine art was naturally a lower grade. He should have thought of this a long time ago. Back to the Sky Cloud realm. It was different here. In the Sky Cloud realm, whether it was a heaven-defying divine art or a heaven-defying artifact, there was a clear division of grades. Low, mid-grade, high-grade, peak, legendary, supreme. These didn't exist in the ancient realm. Moreover, in the ancient realm, other than the low-grade heaven-defying artifacts, there weren't any higher-grade heaven-defying artifacts. Therefore, in the ancient realm, there was no comparison. This made Qin Feiyang, who had just arrived in the Sky Cloud realm, have an illusion that the 6-word divine art was invincible in the ancient realm. In fact, it wasn't. Only the slaughter domain was truly invincible. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but reveal a bitter smile on his face. It really came true that when you haven't come into contact with something of a higher level, you will never know how naive and insignificant you are. It was already confirmed that the 6-word divine art was a low-grade heaven-defying divine art. However, after thinking of this, Qin Feiyang wasn't very disappointed with this result. Because along the way, the 6-word divine art had already helped him a lot. Even if it ended their mission now, he was already very satisfied. Besides, wasn't there still the slaughter domain? The power of the slaughter domain was obvious to all. It was a terrifying killing technique comparable to a sovereign divine weapon. This was also the true trump card that made him invincible. Perhaps, just as they guessed, the return, battle, and attainment divine arts weren't weak in themselves. Perhaps it was just that Qin Feiyang hadn't discovered them yet. It seemed that he really had to find some time to properly comprehend these heaven-defying divine arts and see if there was a terrifying killing technique like the slaughter domain hidden in them. What is he doing? What else can he do? The heaven-defying divine art is useless. The heaven-defying artifact is also restrained by Yi Tian's heaven-defying artifact. He is now at his wit's end. He's just waiting for death. Everyone shook their heads in disappointment. It seemed that they had overestimated this person. Rumble. Crack. In the blink of an eye, the lightning formed by the fire lightning was about to strike. Qin Feiyang finally regained his senses. He took a deep breath and calmed the fluctuations in his heart. He raised his head and looked at the lightning that was whistling toward him. He originally wanted to use the 6-word divine art to end this battle, but it seemed that it was impossible. As for the slaughter domain, this trump card, he definitely wouldn't use it unless it was a matter of life and death. Because every time he used it, he would need the people of the Black Tortoise world to help him donate blood. The people of the Black Tortoise world were his people, not blood donation machines. Qin Feiyang, if you can't do it, run. The city lord couldn't help but remind him. Run. Qin Feiyang muttered. He swept his gaze across the people in the city below and finally noticed the disappointed expressions on their faces. There was even a hint of disdain for him. Sigh. I came to help out of kindness. Why am I being disdained? Just because I didn't comprehend the power of law? Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel miserable. It was indeed difficult to be a good person. He had already made up his mind. After this matter was over, he would no longer care about these other people's business. What did the life and death of these people have to do with him? Boom! The lightning that filled the sky finally descended, instantly drowning Qin Feiyang. We were too naive. We actually pinned our hopes on him. If only it was Madman Mo, he would definitely be able to decide the outcome with Yi Tian. Everyone shook their heads. That kind of disdain in their eyes was already undisguised. Because in their opinion, Qin Feiyang was already dead for sure. This also proved that these people were indeed not worth helping. Even if Qin Feiyang was no match and died at Yi Tian's hands, shouldn't they at least be sad? After all, Qin Feiyang had appeared for them. But not only was he not sad, but he also had a look of disdain. What was this? In the entire Wind Sea city, there were so many people. Only the city lord, Zhuo Tiansheng, and Elder Yu felt sad in their hearts, but they didn't dare to show it. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.